Well, good morning and good evening, everybody. It is my pleasure to host, along with TI Hyderabad and State of Telangana, this amazing event that we've been organizing for the past weeks with the hope that everybody really understands the opportunities between India and Costa Rica. But before we move into the event per se, I would like to introduce some of the guidelines. First of all, my name is Pilar Madrigal. I am the head of the investment advisory group at CINDE, the Costa Rican Investment Promotion Agency. And we would like to let you know a little bit about some of the housekeeping and guidelines that we're going to be keeping today. The first thing is that all of you will be on mute. We will be happy to use that chat option to ask questions to any of the speakers and the moderators as the event goes on. The questions will be taken up by your moderator and then asked to the guests. We apologize ahead if there's many questions. We do have a strict time. But the moderators will do their best to answer as many questions as you have. If you have any trouble with your audio or your video, please check your internet connection. We will try to do as much on our side, but as you know, with these webinars lately, sometimes these troubles can come up. It is for better connections, typically the best thing is to close other video conferencing tools so your connection is a lot smoother. And please do not turn on your videos until asked to do so to the rest of the people to have a much better transmission of the event per se. So with that, if the team can move along to the first slide, I have the honor today to introduce Jorge Secada. He is our managing director at CINDE. Unfortunately, this morning, he was having a little bit of trouble with his voice, so I will be happy to do our introduction words on his behalf. I would like to say some things about him. Jorge has been our managing director for the last 6 years at CINDE, and he really has helped us transform our organization to today becoming the first investment promotion agency in the world. We are recognized globally by our efforts, and all of this has been also with a lot of effort from Jorge himself. So I apologize that he himself cannot be present to do this introductory words, but I'll be happy to do that on his behalf. As I mentioned, we're very happy to host this event with TI Hyderabad and the State of Telangana. Let me start by welcoming His Excellencies Mr. Claudio Anzorena, the Ambassador of Costa Rica to India, and His Excellency Mr. Upender Singh Rawat, the Ambassador of India to Costa Rica. We would like to also thank for the participation of Mr. Sri Jajesh Ranjan. He is the Principal Secretary and IT Industry for the Government of Telangana, and it is an honor to have him with us today. As you know, today we have three main panelists and groups of topics. The first one will be along Medtech. The second one will be around the topic of pharma. And the third one will be along the topic of digital technologies. So as you know, healthcare has been transformed by all three, and we thought that it was a great opportunity to start to talk about these synergies that we can find in between India and Costa Rica. So for us to talk a little bit about CINDE, we have been in charge for many years to develop strategies for economic development. We have been dedicated to developing the country's high value added products and services. And today, we have about 300 multinational companies that have set up operations and have allowed Costa Rica to become an epicenter for Medtech, smart manufacturing, and digital technologies in Latin America. So in response to these times, we have focused on what we call our 3 R's. The first one has been resolve. The quick adaptation. 100% of the life sciences and manufacturing companies continue to operate without any business disruption after COVID. Of course, respecting all the sanitary measurements, we had to do a number of readjustments in our government and in our country in order for them to continue producing, since we produce life-critical devices to support patients around the world. Other than that, about 98% of the services companies moved 100% towards that work from home schemes, and that was done without any business disruptions. Within a week, everybody was working 100% from work from home. The second R is response. We've been resilient. We've had a collaborative business environment with academia, with other programs in order to measure and to react to this pandemic. But the most important, and what is bringing us today here, is that we are also in the process of helping companies reimagine, or at least work with them in this reimagining stage due to the reaction and these new developments that are happening with all these 3 sectors of the healthcare industry. We focused, and our value proposition goes along people. We really work with talent development, alignment of our talent to support the companies and to support new ones focused on the jobs of the future. We believe that talent is our greatest resource. Education has been mandatory and free since 1870. We have no standard army. So that has allowed us to invest almost 8% of our GDP in education and almost 10% of our GDP in health. We also rank first in innovation efficiency in Latin America. We rank first in digital skills among the population in Latin America. We have over 40 projects with universities, technical institutions that have been developed to support the business needs of the companies that have set up operations in the country. We also have a very strong international strategic academic alliances with universities such as Rice University, Arizona State University, University of Minnesota. And these are some of the things that we would really like to engage and talk with India about continuing to work with these strategic academic alliances, hopefully with some of your renowned universities that we know they really do are world renowned and have really helped India into this transformation, also into a value added type of services and products. We work very focused on prosperity. This is a proven partner for enterprise and wide transformation. We are a knowledge intensive service economy. So we are developing a very strong ecosystem where biotech, smart manufacturing, and life sciences are meeting all this dynamic environment for innovation and R&D. Digital technologies. We have over 100 different business processes delivered in more than 10 different languages that have evolved from very transactional to very high value added operations. We have 16 of the top 100 tech companies in the world. 45% of the total exports are services, which is actually nearly twice two times the OECD country ratio, that is at 27%. We export $4.7 billion in knowledge intensive services in 2019. And in the life sciences industry, our main export is medical devices. We have pioneered originally with Baxter. They set up operations back in 1985. And we have grown at an average 14% each year since 2019. Today, again, it's our main export. We are home to 12 of the world's top 30 global OEMs. But we also, within all that ecosystem, we have more than 70 medtech companies that are currently exporting products to the world. The total of the exports is $3.7 billion in 2019, and we are expecting to grow that to $5 billion in 2021. We are also the second largest exporter of medical devices in Latin America. Now, the last focus of our value proposition is our planet. We are really focused on impact FDI, particularly to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. Costa Rica has a plan to become carbon neutral by 2050. 99% of our electricity comes from renewable sources. In 2018, 300 days in a row, we ran on clean energy. We're the world's first champion of Earth, according to the United Nations. We host 6% of the world's biodiversity and 52% of our national territories covered by forests. So we measure our success on our talent and on our impact that we're doing to the world by having a very big responsibility with Sustainable Development Goals. So we have now know that this pandemic has demonstrated a great importance in resilience and redundancy. And it's no secret that India and Costa Rica are the perfect match when it comes to delivery, to follow the sun strategies, to increase that responsiveness. And we really do believe that that alliance with your vision of becoming a great contributor to world health care with Costa Rica that has a proven success story in the industry as well. I think today what we want to show is that that really can happen. I want to take the opportunity to thank a couple of people that have helped us put this together, other than Thai and the state of Telangana. I would like to recognize Munish Manchandan. He has been instrumental, and Manohar Reddy also, who they all have accompanied from day one to help this happen today. So with that, I hope that you know a little bit about Costa Rica. You're going to get to know a little bit more through our moderators and amazing group of panelists that we have today. But before we go into that, we like to play a couple of videos, both from Costa Rica and, of course, from the country that a lot of you are representing here, in an area and a state of Telangana. So if you don't mind, we can move ahead into those videos.
There's a country where you can rest from business or make it happen, where you can explore unique products or take them to your most demanding clients. A country that embraces tradition, but also innovates, committed to nature, but also to development. A breathing lab for client-centered solutions. A melting pot of next-wave technologies. A driving force for digitalization, health, and well-being. A true partner to foster collaboration. Because far beyond a green country, we have talent, creativity, sustainability, education, productivity, peace. We are essential Costa Rica.
Hyderabad, the capital of Telangana state, is rewriting history as the most desirable investment destination in India.
Today, the 14 Japanese companies are operating in Hyderabad. They will bring another new investment.
A number of factors make it the hot investment destination that it is. Mercer's Quality of Living report has ranked Hyderabad as the best livable city globally. Hyderabad is a city which can boast a future-ready infrastructure, an unparalleled skilled human resource pool, moderate temperature range throughout the year, non-cyclonic and non-seismic zone, a world-class airport that connects world-class custom-designed parks. In terms of cost of living, it offers the best buck for one's money. It is in fact every investor's dream destination. While the state has an inherent strength in pharma, IT, electronics, services, aerospace, food processing and engineering, there are a total of 14 thrust sectors identified.
The existence of several international companies and domestic companies, both in the pharmaceutical as well as IT and other areas, is also an important factor.
The custom-designed parks with custom-designed investor-friendly policies, ably supported by well-connected air routes. Telangana, with an urban population of 42%, is one of the world's most investment-friendly destinations. Telangana's 148 ready-to-occupy industrial parks, 27 SEZs, and a pre-approved land bank of 150,000 acres and sector-specific parks makes it as the most preferred destination not only in India but puts it among the best globally. Hyderabad, the capital of Telangana state, has a proactive government that practices a minimum inspection, maximum facilitation policy, single window clearances that assures approvals in 15 days, and 24/7 power supply. The transparent approval process gives companies all the confidence they need to make Telangana a dream business hub. A number of national and multinational companies are thriving across varied sectors. It has everything the world needs to set up the next-gen, state-of-the-art industries. It is no wonder that a total of 3,000 approvals have been accorded within a short span of 18 months, generating 500,000 employment. That Hyderabad is awarded the best city in the ease of doing business category by the Union Government of India is only a case in point.
I have personally experienced the agility and the responsiveness of the state administration to enhance the ease of doing business.
Sanofi continues to invest in Shanta in Hyderabad area because of the ease of doing business.
I pledge 8,000 crores of investment in your state.
You are invited to invest and grow in Hyderabad, in the state of Telangana. We will work as a team and the state government will assist you in identifying land, getting all approvals and setting up your unit. Please contact TSIIC.
Thank you. I believe there is absolutely no doubt after seeing these videos that we are committed, that we have very forward-looking countries and cities. So I hope that this is really a time for us to engage and continue conversations after our meeting. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce His Excellency Claudio Anzorena. He is the ambassador of Costa Rica in India, and we're looking forward to hearing some of the words, his experience of being in India, and of course, how we can continue to make this relationship flourish. Ambassador, your floor.
Thank you very much, Pilar, and good evening, everyone here in India. members of the panel, representatives from the government of India, and good morning to everyone in Costa Rica and Ambassador Rabat, my counterpart in Panama. Congratulations to CINDE, the state of Telangana, and TIE Hyderabad for organizing this virtual conference. It gives me immense pleasure to share with you all about the potential and strength of Costa Rica in the sectors of Medtech, pharmaceuticals, and digital technologies. Costa Rica has made tremendous progress in these sectors, as some of you all may be aware of Costa Rica being known as the Silicon Valley of Central America. It has come a long way since the installation of Intel in 1998, I think. In Medtech, Costa Rica currently have 96 companies that export medical devices around the world. And in 2017, medical devices became Costa Rica's top exports, surpassing the agricultural sector for the first time in the country's history. As an economist, I can responsibly say that for developing nations, perhaps the foremost principle driving sustainable economic success is diversification in exports. Diversified economies are more resilient against downturns and less vulnerable to shock challenges or changes like the ones we are experiencing now in the form of COVID-19 pandemic. Therefore, making Costa Rica a suitable investment destination. Major Indian IT companies like Wipro, Infosys, Cognizant, L&T, Infotech have centers in Costa Rica running successful operations. Besides Indian IT companies like Mahindra Group and the Murhut Group also have business interests in Costa Rica, totaling India's trade with Costa Rica to $183 million. Costa Rica is also home to major global corporations like Cisco, VMware or VMware, DHL, Express, Amazon, and Intel, which run operations in Costa Rica, making it known as the Silicon Valley of Central America. The cooperation between the two countries is beyond trade-off. Recently, India sent a batch of hydrochloroquine medicine to Costa Rica to combat COVID-19. And today I wrote a letter because there seems to be that they're going to buy some more equipment for Caja de Seguro Social for this pandemic problem. Having said that, there's a space for more cooperation in biotechnology, pharmaceutical manufacturing. Indian companies can use Costa Rica's tax-free zone to expand into the North and South American markets, which makes it the ideal place to invest for those companies that are interested in these markets. We want to ramp our manufacturing capacities in these sectors we're discussing today and hopefully attract Indian companies that need a legally secure place to settle its operations and with comparative advantages that our people of CINDE can explain much better, or like Pilar has introduced. So with these words, I conclude my intervention because I have to run to the airport to go to Costa Rica in probably 50 minutes, and wish you all a very successful webinar and investment deals that will make our countries closer together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, His Excellency. We wish you well travels, and we look forward to seeing you in Costa Rica, and thank you for your efforts to continue enhancing our relationships. It is also now my great pleasure and honor to introduce His Excellency Upender Singh Rawat. He is the ambassador of India to Costa Rica, and we look forward, Ambassador Rawat, to listen and talk about our relationships as well. Ambassador, your floor.
Thank you very much, Ms. Madrigal. First of all, I wish bienvenue Ambassador Ansorena, my fellow panelists, the participants. It's an honor for me to participate in this event. I think it's a very crucial and timely event. And first of all, I want to thank the CINDE team from Ms. Madrigal and all the people who have worked for this. And my special thanks to Mr. Muniz Manchanda, head of Amazon Costa Rica, who has been instrumental and who has originally thought about this event, and it was made possible. And Mr. Manohar Reddy of Fuji, he was also quite instrumental, and of course the support from CINDE, PROCOMER, TAI Hyderabad, Pharmaceuticals and other organization was also important for this event. And from the Embassy of India, I want to firstly assure to both the Costa Rican and Indian companies that along with the Costa Rican side and the Indian side, the embassy is here to facilitate wherever it is possible to promote the business between the two countries. Ms. Madrigal and Ambassador Ansorena talked about the strength and vitality of the Costa Rican economy and opportunities Costa Rica offers. I just wanted to add a few more words that definitely that Costa Rica in Central America offers a strategic location where the thin strip of land joins North and South America. It becomes a kind of logistic and transport hub, and it brings same time zone in the entire two continents. So IT industry is it's a good location, and the educational point of view is that the Costa Rican population has high technical skill, very good knowledge of English language, and like India, Costa Rica is also based is a peace-loving country. It has no army for last 70-80 years, and it believes in modern green technology and moving towards an emission-free economy, high per capita income in this region, free trade zones. Its country has 14 free trade agreements, logistic hub, and several, as Ambassador Ansorena mentioned, several Indian companies are already based in Costa Rica. Government of India also offers scholarships to short-term courses for under its ITech program to Costa Rican candidate, and it has been quite successful. So I think for the Indian companies, it's a very good location to be at. Coming to the Indian side, the government of India through its policies like Digital India, Skill India, Make in India, and taxation reforms, and many other policies which have been taken over the last several years, some of them more recently, has made India as a more business-friendly country, and foreign direct investment is now allowed virtually all the sectors with a very few exceptions. And coming to state of Telangana, well, Telangana is one of the youngest state formed after bifurcation of state of Andhra Pradesh, and it came into being in 2014. Hyderabad, its capital, is a very live city and modern city. The state has a very highly dynamic economy, as you will hear from our panelists during the course of this event. And Hyderabad is also a technology hub and also for pharmaceutical sector. In fact, last year during a global survey done by JLL for this city momentum index, among the Hyderabad were ranked second among the top 20 global cities, and the state has over 1,500 IT firms. And it includes the leading foreign multinationals like Facebook, Google, IBM, Microsoft, etc. And in the beginning of this year, the state already had 29 operational special economic zones, 56 notified such zones, and 63 formally approved special economic zones. And it accounts for more than a third of India's pharma production and about 20% of India's pharma export. So, and the state government has taken very proactive initiative to establish Hyderabad Pharma City, which will have a complete ecosystem. So this Genome Valley and another medical devices park that is there. So these are the physical and human resource infrastructure and the interest of the state government, which I think brings enough energy and momentum within the state of Telangana to provide good opportunities for companies from both the countries, especially in the three sectors that are being discussed in detail in this event. And once again, I thank our partners from both the countries for the event, and wish best of luck to all the participants. And I hope that there will be a productive outcome of this event, and we look forward to support in whichever manner we can. Thank you very much.
Ambassador Rawat, it's we thank you so much for those kind words to Costa Rica, and of course, I'm sure very proudly talking about your accomplishments as the state of Telangana. So really, we appreciate and we certainly hope to see you in Costa Rica as well. And thank you for your participation today. So right now, we're gonna go right into the topics that we're gonna discuss as of today. The first one is about Medtech Reimagined. It will all go around discussing about the stage and disruption of the Medtech industry, what role Costa Rica can play in the new dynamics, and clearly also how India has worked in developing a strategy to embrace new markets. I have again, the honor and pleasure as well to introduce one of the persons that I believe is the most knowledgeable in this field. His name is Matt Shuhai, and Matt is the Life Sciences Industry Service Leader for Deloitte Consulting's Real Estate and Life Sciences practice. Matt has about 28 to 30 years, I think, of experience in domestic and international site selection and development of global deployment and strategies for market entry, for real estate, for site evaluation. And I believe he really will be able to help us with this magnificent panel to talk about what we are outlining here. Matt, the floor is yours. And again, thank you also for participating.
Thank you, PR. Good morning, good evening to our panelists and to our participants. Yes, we are living in unprecedented times, and we're going to, as a panel, talk about the implications not only of COVID, but what the way forward could look like. And so what I'd like to do, because we have a variety of experiences and perspectives represented on this panel, so I'd like to ask each of our panelists to give a brief introduction regarding themselves and their company, and as to form a context for our discussion. So, Michael, I'd like to start with you. If you could give us a little bit of background about yourself and your company, Microtechnologies.
Sure. Microtechnologies is a precision manufacturing company. We are now based here in Costa Rica. It, along with myself, repatriated down here from the States some years ago. In the medical space, we are a CMO, so we do a lot of precision component work. We do co-design, design optimization, and a lot of robotic assembly now for the med device industry. So we're essentially a tier 1 CMO to the OEMs.
Fantastic. So then let's move on to Juan Jose. I mean, let's hear what your company's background is. I'm sure most people in Costa Rica do know you, given that you're an indigenous company, but for the benefit of all of our participants.
Yes, of course. So I'm the CEO and founder of Establishment Labs. Establishment Labs is a company dedicated and committed to women's health. we are right now focusing on the breast surgery space. So we create, a series of products and devices, solutions for breast aesthetics and breast reconstruction that goes all the way from breast implants to the reuse of fat grafts to 3D systems. And we are very happy to be in Costa Rica. We manufacture all of our products out of Costa Rica, but we are also present, directly in several markets, like Brazil and 10 European markets, and through distributors in an additional 75 countries. So pretty global in a sense, but we're still a small company, and very, as I said, we are very happy to participate in the global economy from Costa Rica.
Thank you, Juan Jose. And then last but certainly not least, Rajiv, the perspective that you would bring obviously is from a different continent, but nonetheless global. So could you give us a little bit of introduction to yourself and to SMT?
Yeah, hi, very good evening, everyone from India, and good morning to everyone there in Costa Rica. I'm Dr. Rajiv Chhibber, and I'm the Vice President of Sahajanan Medical Technologies Private Limited. Sahajanan Medical Technologies is a global leader and developer of minimally invasive coronary stent systems. We have one of the broadest product portfolios in the industry, and we are South Asia's largest stent manufacturer, with the present state-of-the-art manufacturing in the western part of India in Surat, and we're coming up with Asia's largest stent manufacturing and R&D facility in the state of Telangana itself. We've been in this space for almost more than 25 years now, and presently we have a presence in almost more than 75 countries. We've got multi-country clinical trials and publications which have been spread over around 25,000 patients right now. And recently we announced our entry into the structural heart segment with an acquisition of a medical device company called Vascular Concepts, and this is adding the aortic valves to the product category which we already have. So that's about SMT, and we look forward to the deliberations right now.
Thank you for that. And as advertised, I think it is obvious that we have a diverse panel with various perspectives. And I'd like to start, our discussion around obviously the impact of COVID. And personally reflecting on watching the videos that were shown earlier, that seems like a lifetime ago to see people gathering at conferences in person and seeing life as it was per normal. And obviously we're living through a global pandemic that in many ways has changed the way that we approach business, but also is in many ways accelerated what were macroeconomic or technological advances that were going to occur over a period of time, whether it's 3, 5 years, 10 years. COVID has done in many instances is accelerated that, and we're living, obviously things are happening much quicker than anyone anticipated. And in terms of the medical device industry, I mean, they're the ones that are direct, impacts or factors that have occurred directly because of the pandemic, things such as PPE, ventilators, that have been, obviously critical to combating and treating patients during the pandemic. It's also led to a reduction in elective procedures. Resiliency of supply chain was paramount, especially as everyone tried to adjust to, disruptions to supply chain due to the pandemic. But there are other things that we are talking about. How do you return to work? How do you take care of your employees? How do you continue to operate? Is also, could there be potential, acquisitions through this as the economy, the economies of different countries or fortunes of companies rise and fall? And then I guess the other question that all of us ask, when will we be back to normal? So having those are just some of the, issues that the pandemic has raised. And I would like to go to each of you to get your perspectives and how you have been personally impacted, especially, not just yourself, but your companies. And I'd like to start with Michael, given that your company, Microtechnologies, is actually cross-sector. I mean, you are a CMO in the Medtech space, but you also have a legacy of being in automotive and others. So I'd like to start with you, your perspectives, because you bring more kind of a broader cross-industry perspective. So if you would like to comment,
sure.
Welcome your thoughts.
Yeah, so we've been fortunate enough that we are diverse, as you mentioned. We're kind of a bellwether of different economies, and thankfully, at least one or two of the cylinders were firing while the other ones were off. And Med Device took, I think, its first hiatus that I've seen since being in the States. Automotive is up now. Anything that has to do with your home, obviously, we do a whole nother side of our business on sensors. We just can't keep up with that, right? So the idea of reshuffling your thoughts around agility, I think, is probably our biggest lesson learned. We don't look too far out right now. We keep it in 90-day buckets. Everything we're doing is around agility on the factory floor. So I think that the biggest thing we learned thus far is there is no going back, right? That's our mantra. We are not waiting for that day. That's done. It is about diving headlong into what's coming. And the fortunate thing is that technology is finally catching up with us on so many fronts. All these big ideas that we had of what was possible, we can now actually do. And everything we're contemplating internally, and I'm a big fan of never wasting a good crisis for getting done the things that you really want to get done that you couldn't otherwise do. So we're measuring everything in breakthroughs. It's just one breakthrough, two breakthroughs, three breakthroughs, and we're seeing, I hate to use the overused word tremendous, but we are seeing really positive impact on unleashing the creativity of our people and saying, look, how do we get half the bioburden out of that process? How do we be able to collaborate more closely with our clients and partners in this type of environment? How are we branding ourselves? How's our messaging changed? Everything is changing right now. And the good news is it can change for the better. So we're launching, I think in a couple of weeks, virtual reality factory tours. We're launching virtual collaboration platforms, right? So now we can do one an hour as opposed to one every few days. So I think the rate of acceleration is going to just continue to change, and the more we embrace it, the more that we lean into it, I think we're going to come out of this remarkably better than we went into it.
Yeah, Michael, just to ask, to go a little deeper in, besides the pursuit of science and and I like your term, you don't want to waste a good crisis. I mean, people are going to be self-motivated in part, or at least probably primarily by the pursuit of providing patient care. But how are you managing your people? Because this is, they have expectations. We're working remotely. They have additional burdens with home care, everything else. How do you help them balance that in this time?
Yeah, it's a really good question. First is just patience, that and acceptance that I'm sure before this is over, you're going to hear dogs barking and kids running because I'm at home today. And that's okay. And we just let that, we give everybody a little breathing room, number one. And we just say we're going to get through it. As far as people working from home, I think you mentioned earlier, right? Like be around is okay. We're certainly rethinking what an office means, obviously. How much do we need to be together? There are certain of us that do need to collaborate, and I personally am a fan of those unexpected collisions that happen when you are just in the same room, but we obviously have to be cognizant of it. So I think it really is just letting the leash out wherever you possibly can, giving people the opportunity to just take some time, right? Because I don't know about you, but I'm working more in this setting than I ever did in my office. I hate to admit it. But these are just stacked up Zoom calls from now till dark. So be cognizant of that. Be cognizant of your people need that space. You know, we do a thing where we, you know, hey, Matt, what's your release valve? And we'll, you know, we spend a little extra time making sure people have those in this environment. And then when we do get together, we really sprint, right? Like we try and make the most of the time that we have. That's saying, look, we're gonna bang out something in 3 days that probably would take us 3 weeks before, and then we all disperse again. But it really is about flexibility and patience.
Yeah, and I think that most companies are discovering that, and as we get through Zoom fatigue, and it's really establishing boundaries as well. So people, I absolutely agree with you that they can unwind, because your day could be, there are no boundaries. And so respecting those boundaries and finding those boundaries, that's half the challenge. So thank you for that, Michael. So I want to move to Juan Jose. I mean, to get your perspectives, obviously that you're a homegrown company that has become more global. What have you seen are the challenges? I mean, are the people challenges the same for you? Are there other aspects of how you're being agile and resilient in this time? I just want to get your perspective.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because, you know, although we are, you know, home based in Costa Rica, we're also a publicly traded company in NASDAQ, and we have operations in many countries, so we're pretty global. And we had to act very quickly at the beginning of March to make sure that you know, we could respond to the challenges of the pandemic. So some of the things that we did on the front end were, for instance, moving our entire medical education platform online. And since the beginning of the pandemic, we're happy to see that we've trained over 20,000 surgeons worldwide, you know, during this time. And you know, like Michael was saying, you really don't want to go back to pre-pandemic. Actually, some things of the you know, old normal kind of sucked. You know, they weren't the best. You know, the amount of money we were spending in-person medical education was probably, you know, a waste of money in some cases. So the combination of in-person and using of digital tools, these hybrid models, I think are going to evolve very, very nicely. Same thing with the amount of sales reps. You might be overspending in sales reps. There may be other ways of, you know, getting closer to your, you know, surgeon partner without having to have a person invite them coffee. So there are several things that we are thinking about so that post-pandemic, we become more efficient. I think, you know, in the manufacturing side, you know, we're a fast growth company. So you want to run lean, but at the same time, when you're growing as fast as us, you want to leave a little bit of fat just in case you need it. But one of the things we did during the last few months is really push our people with their business excellence programs and efficiency programs to get even better. And we found out that, you know, it's been a great exercise for the company in that sense. From the people's perspective, you know, Costa Rica has a infrastructure challenge with transportation. And we realized there are a lot of people who are so much more efficient by staying home, you know, most of the week and only coming in once a week for a check-in. So we've seen a lot of positive things coming out of this. So I'm actually super hopeful of the future. I think this pandemic, if properly addressed within the organizations like ours, can be a very positive driver for innovation, efficiency, and higher growth.
No, and I appreciate you bringing up that point about being remote, and because there's a lot of discussion in the press. There are companies, especially in high technology, that have said they're going to be 100% remote for the, you know, forever. But the reality is there's a difference in being permanently remote, and there are functions like salespeople and others that they were remote to begin with. But the concept that you just touched on, I think it's lost in the press or in discussions of being locally remote. And that, to your point, that you can still be collaborative, but you don't have to be in the office every day. And the time that you save in commuting could be used more productively, right? So there's a lot of discussions that we have with our clients. It's everybody seems to keep, verging on 25% of our workforce will be remote permanently. But it varies by the philosophy of the company. Much to Michael's point, where having those, unplanned, collaborations and running into each other. There is value to that, but how do you maintain that while still balancing having people being remote? Because most people, and what you said, there's a hybrid model, there's an in-between, and that seems that's where a lot of companies are getting to. So I want to shift and ask, Rajiv, that to a different part of the globe, that you guys, S&P has a significant footprint in Asia, and your regional and your global. With your perspectives, we've been talking and getting a lot of Costa Rican perspective. I'd like to hear the perspective from S&P and yourself. Are there the same impacts? Are you feeling the same things? What are the nuances? Are there things that you're experiencing that are different than maybe in Central America that are in Asia?
Yeah. Thanks, Matt. In fact, Matt, as both of the earlier speakers said, India was in a very different scenario altogether. So to be honest, S&T, we were also not prepared for this immediately. But as India geared up to the fight for the COVID-19 crisis, we worked relentlessly with the government to really combat the crisis. And in fact, on behalf of S&T, while I was majorly kind of like championing it here in New Delhi as the capital, we had the entire set of people who were with regular consultation with the government, the state governments, and assured in fact the commerce minister as well as right up to the prime minister that we have, you've got full support for a spirited fight against the COVID-19. And in fact, if you look at the entire scenario where India is almost like 80% import dependent in medical devices. So that was a huge challenge which India had to look up. And we were like a couple of medical device manufacturing companies as well as a couple of pharmaceutical companies were really geared together with the government to look at putting in huge efforts to increase the medical device manufacturing capacity through various member companies, and also reaching beyond. I mean, we went to garment manufacturers, we went to component manufacturers, to electronic component manufacturers as the preparedness, as possible preparedness which we could do during these unprecedented times. In fact, S&T itself tried to create through our sister companies an ambu bag for ventilators, and also worked with the Defense Research Institute for creating a ventilator, and that's where we spruced up our manufacturing initially. But yes, I mean, to be honest, as a import dependent company, country, India really had to work hard. It was not one department, but the entire department itself, which looked at how to spruce up glove manufacturing, masks, sanitizers, ventilators. We looked at diagnostics and testing kits. It was like ramping up an entire capacity here itself. And then we had this entire geopolitical issue with China itself. I mean, while there was a border issue which we still have with China, but the entire world kind of like cut off China. We had this whole entire APIs which we were dependent on them, with the entire remote systems which China was kind of like looking at. That was kind of like a bottleneck initially, but now I could probably say that India has really been able to self-sustain it, and we've been able to look beyond now the pandemic. And if you look at the figures, initially when India went into it, the hydrochlorochlorine medicine which we almost provided to 100+ countries, it was like a marvelous effort from our behalf. There was enough R&D which was happening with Indian companies in the global atmosphere itself. So we've kind of like were glued into how we become the second factory for the world of medical devices and pharmaceuticals, to become a dependable manufacturer of quality products, and also be into that global fury of supply chain. So that was like a real 6 to 8 months that really pushed us against the wall, and I'm happy. I mean, today we have been able to promote that entire harmonization very well.
No, and I think you touched on a point that I want to come back to in a moment, is that what the pandemic has definitely highlighted, or at least exposed, is any risk in supply chains and resiliency. When you think about that at a global level or a country level, it's being self-sufficient, right? So you talked about having not the installed base. You were importing a lot of your medical devices as a country. This has a trickle-down effect across the world. I mean, for the U.S., where I sit, we don't make drug substance for very mature products. We cannot make Tylenol or Advil in this country. So there's this concept of reshoring that people like to talk about, and I think that may be misleading. I think you're going to see people making incremental investments regionally to ensure, or mitigate risk in your supply chain. But we'll come back to that as we move into what's post-COVID. I wanted to ask two more questions to our panel. First is that, not having any crisis be, wasted, and there's that drives innovation. But there's also the financial aspect of that, and it is not unusual for companies to take advantage of financial crises to look at going and purchasing other companies, where their acquisitions are done, whether opportunistic or because it's financially with the cost of money much easier right now. So I wanted to just ask the panel, and I'm going to actually put Juan Jose on the spot, because you're a successful company that is growing and you're in multiple markets. What is your view of, do you believe there will be some marketing or acquisitions, due to the pandemic?
Well, I do think that there's going to be a huge M&A wave coming. I think some companies have shied away from engaging in it. Part of it can be headline risk. Some companies don't want to be seen as taking advantage of the pandemic to buy other companies, but I think it's bound to happen. I think it's in the works and it's going to happen. When it comes to us, we're not, our model is not based on buying other companies for growth. We create our own organic growth, but we like, and we've done it in the past, components that we can link into our technologies. So in the past, we bought IP, we bought, technology pieces that we like. And and I do think that, there may be opportunities like that, companies that don't make it all the way, or are not using a component or a technology to its fullest. So we have to be very watchful for those opportunities, because they may become interesting in the next year.
Fantastic. So Rajiv, I would like to ask you the same question, because you're growing very quickly. Do you have a different point of view or any nuance to that?
No, I almost agree to what he said. In fact, we've been looking at opportunities also, and while I was introducing my company, I did mention that during the pandemic itself, and in May, we acquired another company, and that's been able to, really prep up our portfolio a lot. Although we've still been looking at the cardiovascular portfolio largely, but that's because mergers and acquisitions were happening, and we took the opportunity. We took the opportunity to grow largely in our segment itself. So that's something which which we were kind of like proud. But yes, there were issues. I mean, there's still issues. We don't have the regular OPDs which are happening, the elective and selective surgeries which are still being not fully utilized by hospitals, which means products don't end up being utilized. We still have to look at how the supply chain needs to be managed well, and where is the entire inventory going to go now. So all that is something which did have an impact on us. But the good part is that we looked at how automation can also be a possibility. So earlier too, in the Telangana factory, in the upcoming factory which we have, we are trying to make it almost like fully automated. I mean, not to say that a factory cannot work without people, it needs people to work around it, but how automation can be done much more better. We've spruced up our automated inventory systems itself. We looked at how orders could be really done in a very convenient and efficient way without even wasting a lot of manpower. So they were iterations which were happening. There were iterations which are still happening, and I think it's going to stay.
No, and I agree with that. And a lot of it, as we said in the contextual I did in my opening remarks, there are things that COVID has accelerated. Automation clearly is one, and the impacts to talent and what that means for production. But there are a whole host of other topics that I would like to get your perspectives on. But before we get there, I'm just going to put all three of you on the spot and ask you to be a prognosticator for a moment and give your best guess, or at least approximation of when will we be back to normal? Are we talking years? Are we talking second quarter next year? I mean, because it differs, and it really is. It's impactful on what we're going to discuss next. So, Michael, I'll put you on the spot. When do you think that we'll be relatively back to normal?
I think we got another year of this.
Okay. Jose?
Well, I hope we never go back to the old normal. I think this like very life disruptive phase of this we probably do have until the end of next year. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the new normal is the new thing right now. But yes, this is gonna stay for a year and a half now.
And I share all three of your perspectives on that timeline. So, given that we have, at least a year living through, but there are things that have changed, and I agree that this is forced innovation, this is forced efficiency. But let's talk about, part of it is that, we address that there's going to be self-sufficiency, which will lead to, in a larger aspect, of regionalization. And we're here to talk about how this is a global community and how Costa Rica and India can, collaborate and both benefit from the relationship. How do you see that playing out in a world where we're going to have, at least post-COVID, at least a trend to, mitigating risk by regionalizing supply and manufacture? So, Rajiv, I'm going to start with you. Those could be two kind of counterintuitive points. How do you think that this will play out moving forward?
Sorry, your voice broke in the last part. So could you repeat it? Sorry, really sorry about that.
Sure, I will paraphrase in the face of regionalization, how will that impact collaboration across the globe, especially as it relates to India and Costa Rica?
Yeah, that's a good question. In fact, as I mentioned earlier, also we're still having huge issues with China, and there's like India is still galloping within that frame of developing a medical device industry for itself with indigenous and domestic manufacturers. But yes, while there are progressive states like Telangana, which is working towards bringing that kind of strength to the medical device industry, but simultaneously we are also looking at other countries where we would want to experience how we could take forward the kind of automation, the kind of manpower, the kind of production facilities which they have. We look forward to these countries. Experiences from Costa Rica and as it was mentioned earlier also, the bandwidth the country has, the bandwidth, the kind of opportunities it provides will not deter us to also go beyond China or beyond the Asian region itself. So I think a lot of medical device companies in India are going to set their eyes overseas. We're not going to look at the typical South-South cooperation. It's going to be a geopolitical kind of a decision where we would really want us to move forward.
All right, let me ask you, just be very more specific. If you're for Indian companies to make investment decisions, I understand that, the factors you're talking, in general, but for what would be critical for the factors you would look at to make investments in Costa Rica? What would be important to an Indian company? I know it's a broad question, but just generally speaking, what would be the factors that you would look at and would hope to find in Costa Rica to make an investment?
Well, the foremost factor which we would like to look at is obviously the ease of doing business. So if that's there, everyone would want to really look at that part. Now, what comes under the part where we talk about ease of doing business is, are we going to get some kind of stops being an international player and coming into that region? What's the kind of assistance we get from the government, the kind of land area. I mean, as a medical device company, while I do understand there's a lot of automation happening, but that needs to be dovetailed more with pharma and engineering. So the kind of acquaintance which the country would have to both the pharma as well as the engineering sector. So all these things become very important. The kind of taxes which we would be looking into, because why would I leave my own country and try to invest in another country when I don't see any kind of a greenfield or a brownfield project which is really going to entice me to invest. So certain aspects like that are really important. The political stability is really important. We're looking at, earlier we heard that Costa Rica in any case has something like 12 to 15% committed to the healthcare fraternity itself. So that's very important. A country like India is right now spending almost like a little lower than 2% of its GDP on healthcare. So which means we get frugal by the time it's decided for the companies or the industry itself. So that's an important decision when we leapfrog from our own home destination to a global destination.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, because that's what you've talked about are factors that are commonly shared in looking at investment. I think the good news is that based on, and this is my perspective, being independent in this discussion, that Costa Rica has a lot of these attributes. So I'd like to pose this question to Juan Jose. I mean, we've touched on a lot of the acceleration of what is happening and the assets that Pilar mentioned earlier that I think are very well known, at least to this group and hopefully to a broader group, is that the quality of the education system, the skills available in Costa Rica, the support from the government. But I want to get your perspectives as we move through, because there's going to be sustainability is going to be another big factor, which was corporate responsibility. That was happening anyway. The impact on talent, the upskilling of talent for automation. How do you see, in your perspective, how well positioned is Costa Rica for these changes in technology and demographics that are just being accelerated by COVID and the way forward? What are some of the particular, and also what are challenges that Costa Rica faces from your perspective?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I think that the country is very well positioned to continue to scale up when it comes to medtech manufacturing and also advanced medtech manufacturing. I think as we go into, the combination of, tools and devices and electronics using a lot of software, the country has created a very strong pool around those areas. We're actually planning our third facility in Costa Rica right now. We hope to break ground next year. And, one of the reasons we are doing this in Costa Rica is because we see that we can continue to scale up in the country. The other part of it, I think, is on the challenge side. I think from a company like us, where we're not only manufacturing, we're also selling our products worldwide. So what we see is that a lot of the times maybe the cluster is too much focused on manufacturing, and probably one of the great opportunities for Costa Rica would be to focus also on what can be done on the front end, on the entire value chain. So I do think there are things that can be done there by Costa Rica, especially when you think about this pandemic. You have like this possibility of having direct contact like before, but at the same time, people are using social media and digital channels like never before to choose and research about medical technologies.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe because they're staying at home, they finally want to get some treatment done that they have postponed because they were too busy. Now they can get knee surgery. Now they can have breast surgery because they have that time at home where they can recover. And we can use digital tools to get closer to our clients during this time. So I think it's an amazing opportunity for the medtech industry to do that.
Now, I could talk about this for a long time because there are so many topics here that we could just have individual discussions about. But in the final minute here or two, Michael, I started my question with you, so coming full circle, I'd like to give you the last word on anything or your thoughts on the competitiveness and the connection between, different regions of the world and Costa Rica's place in that ecosystem.
Well, I think Rajiv's point of earlier is really important. As Juan Jose, I tell my kids we're no longer in the information age, we're entering the imagination age. And it's really important because we have all the tools, right? My kids can learn anything and everything they want for free instantly. The question is, what do you do with it? And that's becoming the most important challenge in the work world. And so the idea of accessing young, creative minds, I think, is the largest challenge and opportunity for business in med device and others. I think, obviously the check the box things that Rajiv said about why Costa Rica, why did we just reinvest a $20 million building here, was for all those reasons, right? Stability, transparency. We'll just assume that for a second because it is, I think, uniquely positioned in the world. When I did all my homework again, when I spend that much money, I do my homework. There's nowhere in the world that has that stability. But really, what lights me up now is the wealth of young, smart people we have here, and I'm sure India has, add a couple of zeros onto it. But we need to change what we're looking for from a lot, an army of bodies and hands to an army of young minds or old minds that hopefully think young, because that's really, the breakthroughs are just accelerating. And I think a company that can harness that, and I think as a country, Costa Rica's done a very good job. The ethos and cultural appreciation for education here is like nowhere I've seen in the world. And our job is to just fan that fire. And like I said in the beginning, we have all this opportunity. So I think it's a tremendous place to do that. I think being able to build a bridge to the Indian side of that, creates an ocean of talent compared to our pond. And I would be one that would be really interested to figure out how to play in that, because we just can't hire enough smart young people that want to learn and aren't experts yet, right? If somebody tells me they're expert, I'm like, okay, no thanks. But yeah, it's a really exciting time for the country.
No, and I think that is very well said. And one of the benefits of being a moderator of panels is I always borrow the smart things that people say with your attribution, but I like your concept, your vision of the imagination age. I think that is very succinct and well put. So I would like to thank the panelists. It was a pleasure to moderate this discussion. Rajiv, Juan Jose, and Michael. Again, it was a pleasure. So thank you for your thoughts. Pilar?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, the four of you, for this, magnificent panel. Matt, Rajiv, Michael, Juan Jose, always a pleasure. Rajiv invited to come to Costa Rica and take a look and have a chat. Hopefully when this thing happens, goes, and we can travel again. So thank you again, Matt, always welcome. And we'll see you all soon, hopefully.
Thanks, Pilar.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. So now I would like to introduce our next panel. It will be around pharma and the role of generic manufacturing. We will discuss about the transformation of generic drug manufacturing in world markets. Again, what's the role, and the evolution of the skills that are needed to participate as a site and production for pharma. With that said, I would like to introduce our moderator, Nitin Naik. Nitin Naik is the VP of the Life Sciences Group at Frost & Sullivan. Nitin has had a wide experience in the life sciences industry, I would say for over 10 to 15 years, if not more. He's been kindly accompanying us in our life sciences conference in Costa Rica. And Nitin, it is always a pleasure to have you. There's a lot that we can talk about you, but you have the floor. And again, I welcome you, and I'm sure you'll be welcoming the rest of the panel. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Pilar, and good morning and good evening to all the audience, and thank you to the speakers for joining this session. So it's my pleasure to host this panel today. Really, the topic for today's panel is in the light of investment opportunities, what are the potential synergies for Costa Rica and Indian companies to really participate in this evolving landscape. For today's session, I would like to invite Gabriela, Alvaro, and Ravi Uday. Thank you so much for taking time off from your busy schedules today. So let's get started with this discussion. Really, what I would like you to do is give a very short introduction about yourself and about your company, and that will help us to also get the audience a little bit excited in maybe sort of addressing certain questions. So let's start with Gabriela with your introduction, and then we can roll over to the rest of the panelists.
Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me here. Thank you for CINDE for inviting me. And Nitin, it's a pleasure to share this panel with you, as well as my other colleagues. I am living in Costa Rica for the last 11 years, and I've lived in pretty much 8 or 10 countries in Latin America, Central America, and North America. So I have background in medical, agronomical, and business development. So I'm dedicated as a consultant to assist governmental companies and academy in innovation management. And I've been working with CINDE for about 3 years in consulting some time ago. So, and just last, I had the opportunity the last 7 years until recently to create a biotechnology and life science cluster in Costa Rica, the first of the type in Latin America. And this is still ongoing and expanding. So, and CINDE is part of this cluster. So that's much for me.
Thank you. Welcome, Gabriela. Alvaro, over to you.
Thank you, Nathan, and thank you for the invitation. So I've been working now for about 26 years in the pharmaceutical industry, also in different parts of the world, in Europe, in Latin America, in different countries. And since the last 10 years, I will say also, I came back to Costa Rica, and now I'm heading the Central America, Caribbean, and Venezuela operation for Roche. Also, I am the president of the pharmaceutical chamber called Fede Pharma, where we group 18 of the most important multinational pharmaceutical companies in the region. So again, thank you for having me, and also good afternoon and good morning to the panelists.
Awesome. And last but not the least, pleasure to host you, Ravi. Thank you for joining today, and appreciate if you could just do a short introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Nitin, and good morning to other panelists. Good evening.
We would like to ask the rest of the participants to please mute themselves so we can hear the panelists and the moderator appropriately. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Uday Bhaskar. I'm the Director General of Pharmaceuticals Export Promotion Council of India, set up under foreign trade policy by the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. I'm a postgraduate in pharmaceutical technology, and I worked in FDA as a regulator with 25 years experience, and I'm on deputation, and I'm working with Pharmaceuticals Export Promotion Council of India since last 5 years. So our major objective is to facilitate the pharmaceutical exports to different countries. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. So really at the backdrop, I would like to set up the stage for this particular industry, and we at Frost & Sullivan have been really looking at some of the bigger trends, and 3 of these trends are very unique, especially in the context of how both Costa Rica and India can make a phenomenal difference to this industry. So one and foremost is obviously pricing. More and more branded as well as specialty drugs are getting commoditized, and that's a challenge as well as an opportunity. Portfolios are getting complex in the sense you have also now device combinations, especially when you're looking at some of the more specialized drugs like biologics. And last not the least, manufacturing, right? So quality control and actually access to talent is one of the key considerations when you're really looking at scaling up operations. And if you look at some of the bigger companies, Roche and Teva and Pfizer, they have gone through different stages of this journey to really make a big transformation. So with that at the backset, I would like to open the floor, really posing the big question around transformation. So Gabriela, if I can start, you and Alvaro really trying to give the audience a sense of what are some of the transformations in the Costa Rica ecosystem, and how has especially the government agencies been supportive of driving this transformation?
Okay, I can start if Gabriela is okay with that. I think I just want to highlight perhaps.
Can everybody hear me, because I'm having connection issues? Sure.
I don't think we're really listening to you, Gabriela. If maybe you can log out or log in or try your Wi-Fi settings. But Don Alvaro, if you don't mind, we can start with you.
All right, I can start. I will say let me start maybe with the pandemic and how this is opening up opportunities. The Costa Rica government back in May has made an important declaration that the life science sector in this country is has been declared of national interest, and that has created a movement, as Gabriela was mentioning in her introduction, to create a life science hub in Costa Rica. And that is reconnecting the ecosystem in Costa Rica, giving a push to the ecosystem in Costa Rica, where not only the pharmaceutical industry, but also the academia, the entrepreneur sector, the society at large are identifying different areas of opportunities where we need to develop this concept. Specifically in the pharmaceutical sector, we're trying to focus our energy in two major points. One is to develop the research and development activity in the country. And here I make a parenthesis to explain to the audience. Costa Rica has a unique healthcare system. It's a system that is based on what we call a centralized social security system with coverage that goes beyond 90% of the population. And now what we want to connect is the full ecosystem, connect the public healthcare system with the research and development part of the organizations and companies, which connects with different parts of the ecosystem, like the academia, to develop the talents and capability that we need to scale this up, and so on and so forth. So I'm saying that today Costa Rica is moving towards strengthening the different parts of the ecosystem. Today is moving to open and understand that if we want to evolve in the healthcare space, we need to do this through alliances. And those alliances, I think, have opportunities for everyone that shares the vision to help patients, help the healthcare system to develop with science, and also to understand that this is not an endeavor that is done by a company or by a government, but it's an effort of many forces.
Yeah, I think you mentioned a very important point, especially good science, right? Because really when you are taking that approach, you are keeping all doors open and trying to overcome those limitations around, expanding portfolios or looking at finding new solutions. So I think Gabriela is back on the line. Hi, Gabriela. Can
you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely. We can hear you. Okay. So I think Alvaro gave a very good introduction about really the bigger vision of the government to, almost reboot this and think about how this system, the existing system, can be actually drawn into the academic research. Maybe if you want to, build upon that and talk about of some of the other aspects which are really helping this transformation in Costa Rica.
Okay, so yeah, I'm glad Alvaro had this introduction because he saved me half the way. Pretty much, I want to say one thing: small is beautiful. So that means that in this opportunity that we have had with the pandemic, what has happened is that everybody came together. This means something very, very important. Where normally processes would take a long time to be able to go through all the tape work and for companies to be able to make partnerships either with the government or with the local health system to do biomedical research or to do any part of the process that means innovating. This would take a lot of time. And with the pandemic, it was incredible to see everybody coming together, and processes that would take years would take now about 3 months. So this means it leaves us one learned lesson, that when it is needed, we can react. And why? Because they are so intricately related. Everybody knows where to knock on doors, and within these collaborations were facilitated. So here you have an example of, for example, either the universities having to come up really fast with solutions for diagnostic of the COVID for developing masks. So everybody was put together in a triple helix and coming up with results that were unprecedented in timing. And that is because small is beautiful. It's an opportunity.
Yeah, no, I think that's interesting. Really, what this situation has sort of shown us. Let's fly almost probably 10,000 miles or more to India and ping Uday. Uday, sorry to keep you waiting, but just super excited, right? Super excited with you having here. Tell us a little bit more about. Again, from the India pavilion, right? Great strides in this industry. Humongous number of exports. But tell us, how has some of these recent developments pushed the transformation in India, and both how the government as well as the companies have responded to this challenge?
Ravi, I think you are muted.
Okay. Nitin, actually, I was trying to log in from 7:15, so I was not to connect. Unfortunately, I got a link of attendees, so I was trying, and so finally I got tired before we start. Actually, anyhow, I'm very much refreshed with the deliberations, and I heard our ambassador, His Excellency Rawat, and he was talking about the Genome Valley and the state of Telangana and its capabilities. Just I would like to mention about the Telangana and in particular, and India in general. So you are very much aware of that the major companies which are popularly known among the world, that Dr. Reddy's, Aurobindo, they are in the top the 15 generic companies in the world. They are in the 6 Indian companies are in the top 15 generic companies in the world. In India, financial year 20, we exported almost 20.58 billion US dollars worth of drugs to different world, and out of that 55% to highly regulated the markets. So as you are aware of that, the human mankind is facing unprecedented the situation. So during this time, actually, particularly the Indian pharmaceutical industry is in the forefront, and that was also Mr. Vijay also mentioned about that. We exported the repurposed hydroxychloroquine and the other drugs to the entire world. So India is at the forefront. When it comes to the state of Telangana, Telangana and Hyderabad is a powerhouse of API manufacturing in the world, as well as the vaccine manufacturers. Particularly the companies like Biologically, Bharat Biotech, and Sanofi, and all these companies are located in Hyderabad, and we have highest number of US FDA approved facilities also. So, and then the Telangana government is also have a very ambitious plan of coming with a pharma cluster of 18,000 acres. So I think if you see that traditionally the Hyderabad, thanks to the government of India for initiating their steps in starting Indian Drugs and Pharmaceuticals Limited, it's a public sector company. So that is almost 50 years back. The most of the pharma leaders and the management or the scientists are coming from that Indian Drugs and Pharmaceuticals Limited. So Hyderabad have a very strong legacy and techno entrepreneurs as well as the skilled manpower. So I think so in the days to come, particularly the area of vaccines, So Indian companies are closely working with the Serum Institute of India is working with Oxford, and the biological is working with Johnson and Johnson, and we have a very strong, and we can able to manufacture huge quantities. That is the capacity of Hyderabad, and the vaccines, particularly sourced by WHO, almost 70% is from India, the scheduled immunization program. Those are the advantages that particularly the Indian companies have, and I think Hyderabad as well as India are known for manufacturing quality drugs at a very affordable price. That is very much relevant, particularly during this time, and keeping view of the contraction of the economy of the world. Thank you.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think if you sort of look at the India model, and you mentioned some of the points, right? Entrepreneurship, really world-class infrastructure, very sound, passionate knowledge about chemistry, right? Which is what the Indian scientific community has been sort of doing, and how has that transformed? One of the key sort of innovations which we have seen even in vaccines has been on the injectable side, right? If you look at even the pediatric sort of vaccines and how that portfolio has changed over the period of time. There are several companies, Shanta and Bharat, and a lot of companies have done that. Let's keep that at the back of the mind, because that's an important conversation we want to hold to, and let's fly back to Costa Rica. Alvaro, I mean, you are doing some interesting work with Roche, especially on innovation and R&D. Tell us a little bit more about some of those important characteristics which you or Roche have sort of tapped into Costa Rica's ecosystem and have a vision to really take those innovations to really to the next level.
Yes. So I believe that Costa Rica has unique characteristics that will help to scale this up. So Costa Rica has really a tremendous skilled people workforce. It has, as I mentioned, a centralized system where the coverage is very, very high. As I said, 90% of the population is already covered. That in itself provides a great advantage when you look for population to initiate new clinical trials, for instance. So the speed where a clinical trial can be organized and how patients can be recruited could be very, very fast. The system is also already with electronic files, so it's already moving into the digital space, which is a very interesting opportunity to also to keep expanding. And the medical expertise in the country is also very, very high. So if we are able to connect that in a way that we can scale it up and in a way that it can compete at a world level, then I think Costa Rica can be placed to a very interesting host of companies that can expand in their research and development activities. And that's one of the major endeavors that we have with the cluster that we were talking about before. and this is what Roche is also interested in, why we keep our interest in this country. And we are not only expanded in the pharmaceutical industry, we also, or in the pharmaceutical part, we expanded also in the services around the operation. We have now one of the shared service centers. We have only 3 service centers around the world, and one of those is located in Costa Rica that provides support to all operations around the world. So that speaks for the workforce that we can find in this country. Now, if we speak about scaling this up, the network to the academia is also very important. And in this country, we have the blessing, I will say, that we have been investing in education for many, many years. And then we have a network of very highly recognized universities that can and are linked to this vision. We have to remember Costa Rica is one of the few countries without an army. And I would say that decision has helped us to really redirect resources to innovation and to education. And that creates really a wonderful platform where we can build on.
Awesome. Yeah, I think you mentioned a few interesting points. When you are really looking to scale up, it's not just about core technology or a business model, right? Most scale up examples and successes have come in from looking at talent and deploying that talent in innovation, as well as what we call as now as a service economy, right? Because eventually, from a product life cycle management point of view, companies tend to have a glass ceiling when you just purely compete in a product stroke service model. So I'm going to switch to Gabriela and see if she has some ideas or insights to share on some of these examples, or I would say really the strengths, right? Digital talent, access to academia. Personally, academia is a very important part of this equation, because the faster you're able to pull in the technology at an early stage, fail cheap and fail faster, it's easier to kind of move through that valley of death. So Gabriela, just want to get your ideas on what are you seeing in terms of either smaller companies who have really tapped into some of these strengths of Costa Rica to build on to more successes.
Okay, I'll get to that question, but I'd like to give you a broader sense of the opportunities in Costa Rica, since Alvaro was giving very specific good points about Costa Rica. So the fact that I was saying small is beautiful again is Costa Rica is in the middle of this hemisphere and has obviously, given a smaller market, it has extended its free trade agreements to over 14 countries, which pretty much is 2/3 of the GDP of the world. So in that sense, out of being small, it has expanded throughout the world, and it has created this ecosystem for both manufacturing and more recently medical health research and development. And this has been a great opportunity to join the forces of opportunities that there have been. One is the fact that the medical, pharmaceutical, and medical device companies have been here for so long in manufacturing has given way into to tap into the opportunities of working with the network of R&D in Costa Rica. And again, the way it was facilitated is of being able to reach out into very adaptable relationships. So if there was something that the company needed specifically, they would go to the university and they would bring together all their strengths in order to be able to respond to that. So this way of collaboration, specifically to demand, is very, very interesting because it puts everybody in the same, let's say, in the same scale at the same time to work together. And this taps into whatever else is needed, if it is regulatory, if it is customs to bring in reagents or things like this. And going back to the opportunities, again, here the fact that there is a very public health system that enables for collaborations with research in biomedical fields. Let's say that the regulatory part is well established since the law was given in 2014 and the regulations. So what has happened is that in this opportunity, for example, for researching Costa Rica's immunity to COVID, there was a very quick collaboration between the public health system with a local foundation for doing clinical resources and obtaining funds from NIH or from the US. So this type of collaboration would not have happened so quickly and so in this type of complementary combination. Usually it would go from years or would go for a lot of red tape.
No, that's interesting, especially when you want to move large-scale healthcare infrastructure. That's a very unique situation, for most companies. Uday, I know, the Indian government has also really updated some of that infrastructure, including, guidelines for conducting clinical trials or partnerships with academia. The Department of Biotechnology and has created this very unique pot of funds, right, for the academia and the companies to actually also develop proof of concept. Can you tell us a little bit more about some additional plans which the government is planning to really foster this collaboration, either in states like Telangana or at a national level?
Well, earlier there was no serious collaboration between the academia and industry. But if you see in the recent past, there are premier national institutions of national NIPERs, National Institute of Pharmaceutical Education and Research. At the same time, the industry is working very closely with national research laboratories like CSIR and IICT. So IICT is very much located in Hyderabad, and most of the pharma companies are closely working with them, and they are developing new molecules and they are working on it. Just before I go further, actually there is the dependence of APIs on China. That is the major issue of concern to India. So India was known to be a very strong player in the manufacture of active pharmaceutical ingredients prior to 90s. But due to different reasons and the keeping in view of the profit margins and market dynamics, Indian pharmaceutical industry diverted to generic formulations. In that space, again, Government of India is thinking about the reducing the dependence on China, and at the same time, the most of the countries are looking at an alternative to China. So government introducing plans, and government is guiding the national educational institutions and research institutions to work closely with the industry for the academia and industry collaboration. So I think in the come those collaborations are going to yield very better results and make India. The Government of India also announced the schemes, particularly to encourage the Indian pharmaceutical industry to develop these APIs and intermediates, and they are thinking about the flow chemistry and how they can manufacture these APIs and drug intermediates at a lower cost, and the continuous batch manufacturing. These kind of developments are taking place, and a lot of discussions are taking place at different levels. And in fact, Pharmaceuticals Export Promotion Council of India conducted a study on the dependence issue and how we can go forward to make India self-reliant as far as APIs are concerned. Certainly, these kind of collaborations and India is exporting a lot of APIs to other countries also, even though we are dependent. So this is the area where the collaboration certainly help us.
Yeah, no, and I think that's a very important, I would say, shift, in terms of really changing the value chain structure, right? As you're going to really take control of some of that source of origin and actually determine not just the quality, but also how this is going to be implied across different product categories. Especially when you now see, more and more biologics going off patent, the complexity of the product is really challenging for any manufacturer to say, hey, look, I can do this everything in-house, right from clinical to testing and even to maybe manufacturing, because the supply chain points are really varied. And what the pandemic has sort of taught us is there is a need for the companies to be very agile, right? Gone are the days when you have a 9-month inventory, but that can be absolute, right? Or that could be stuck at some point of time. So I want to again just probe a little bit more and just have a follow on that study you mentioned, or the directions from that study. Which companies do you think are actively thinking about this transformation in terms of reducing dependencies, or not just companies, but where do you think would be some of that movement, right? Which can potentially say, hey, let's look at an ecosystem like Costa Rica, right? Because they have good clinical infrastructure, they have good way to, for example, tap into the medical devices ecosystem. So just wanted to hear your views, in that new direction.
Nitin, actually, most of the Indian big companies like Aurobindo, Reddy's, Laurus, and their Lupin, and all these companies are seriously working about it, and particularly the fermentation technology. The most of the antibiotics based on fermentation technology, almost 95% were dependent on China. So that is the one area where the companies like Aurobindo and other companies are focusing. So now with the introduction of new scheme by Government of India, and certainly it gives an encouragement to the Indian industry to revive the API industry again. So as far as the Indian pharmaceutical industry capabilities are concerned, the manufacturing of these APIs and drug intermediates, it's not a record technology. So
Yeah.
our people have a knowledge and the chemistry skills, and we know how to manufacture at a lower cost. So now we wanted to revive that, and most of the major pharma companies, actually the companies like Aurobindo, they'll manufacture API, and as well as they will have a captive consumption, and particularly for their formulations. They're 100% their formulations are being exported. Yeah, the Gabriela is speaking about the collaboration of academia and the industry. So if you see the Serum Institute of India, they are working closely with the Oxford University. That is Indian companies are working with foreign universities. Take for example, Bharat Biotech is developing intranasal vaccine, and they are also working with one university in US. So this kind of collaborations, particularly the Indian companies. So if you see, last year there were only 8 Indian companies are in the top 20 global generics. Now it is raised to 16 companies out of 50, and out of that 6 companies are in the top 15. So Indian companies are ready to collaborate with different countries and different the companies, and so I think no company is exceptional, and everybody is in the race. So particularly in this API area, as well as on the vaccine front also. So as you have rightly mentioned, we are also telling our industry, and the government is also telling the industry, the conventional manufacturing of these generics is not going to be there for so many years. The Indian companies are also thinking about the complex generics and biosimilars and the biologics and all these areas, and high value, low volume products. This is the area where now the big companies are capable of investing a lot of money. Earlier, it was not the situation. Situation was not like that. Now they are working closely with the foreign companies, and now I think the picture is looking very bright in the days to come for the Indian pharmaceutical industry.
Awesome. I think that is definitely a move which is much needed, given India sits at the center of gravity for this industry, and also sort of almost collaborates with different partners, right? Be it academia partners or even certain partners. I'm going to take this question to Alvaro. Given that now that we have seen the basket of movement and the type of opportunities which India presents. Really, from your seat, Alvaro, if there was an hypothetical innovation, right, which is not existing now, and if that was one problem you think, well, if I had this capability within Costa Rica and what the Indian companies are establishing or envisioning to do, what do you think that would be your wish list, right? And maybe that's a pilot project. The audience or the entrepreneurs could start thinking about.
No, I also agree with Mr. Uday that everybody is rethinking the setup, and the pandemic has shown us some tough lessons in terms of dependency and unique sources. And I think I am a believer that collaboration flourishes in every place that shares vision and purpose. And we in the pharmaceutical industry, I prefer to think that both industry, the research industry like Roche, like the AstraZenecas, the Pfizers and so on, and the generic industry, they have a place to work. No, and if you think on this broadly, in a way, we all have certain dependencies that sometimes are hard to acknowledge, but they are. In a way, generics are depending on the innovation. And that's clear. The future of a generic organization is at a point in time that innovation will slowly go and it will become a commodity or a generic. And that will, in a way, feed back to a system that should support innovation by recalibrating the investment. So if we think on this on a broader base, we can and we should be more collaborative. And I think everybody in our markets and in the worldwide, there are more challenges and opportunities that collaboration will help us to bring it closer to a better solution for patients. So Costa Rica offers, I think, the possibility to create, to establish and build new services and products, to establish collaborations, and then scale them up. There are challenges like every place in the world, but I think the size of Costa Rica, plus the stability of Costa Rica, plus the workforce of Costa Rica, plus the vision that the healthcare sector is a national priority, not only for health itself, but as a engine of economic reactivation, I think bring us the possibility to work together. So exploring this is my invitation. I think everybody is open to this today, and we have examples of collaboration between industries, between different sectors of the ecosystem, and that's, I think, what Costa Rica can offer.
Well, good. I mean, I'm kind of watching the clock. Look like we are almost getting to the end of the hour here. Really, I want to take this opportunity to thank the panelists, and I've taken some key messages for the benefit of the audience. Let me start with what Gabriela actually talked in her views was really small is beautiful, right? Costa Rica has all the elements really packed very tightly, be it in the clinical academia as well as the commercial side, and that's important. Really, it's the way I see it is as the tip of the arrow, right? If you want to kind of move ahead and make really big changes. Uday actually gave very good examples about how the industry is saying, look, we got to kind of now make a paradigm shift, right, in terms of not just scaling up the business, but actually also looking at changing the portfolio mix. And that's where I'm personally excited to see this new innovations in biosimilars and actually also the drug device combinations come in. And that's really where I see is an opportunity for conversions and collaborations with the Costa Rican community, because there is a existing infrastructure there. And then Alvaro, to your point, I think you brought it up very nicely, the interdependencies between the innovator and the generics, and eventually how those will translate into a beyond the product kind of opportunity, which is services and really scaling that up. And not just looking at within the developing economies. I think one of the points which I started out thinking about this panel was really with the whole challenge right now in US and the other developed economies. Pricing is a key concern, and how actually access to affordable care remains to be seen. So I want to sort of summarize this, and I strongly believe there are several growth opportunities for entrepreneurs as well as big companies to look at the capabilities of both countries and really form some pilot projects in the next endeavor as we go towards the next phase. So with this, I want to thank the panelists for their time. Really appreciate you taking time from your busy schedules. And I hope everybody enjoyed this conversation, and hopefully we continue to have this conversation beyond this webinar in the future. I'm going to hand it over back to Pilar for the concluding remarks.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for the four of you again for all your efforts, and particularly, yes, to take the time and talk about this absolutely important transition of the pharma and bio industry globally. So thank you again to all of you, and I hope again too that you continue to form alliances and collaborations.
Thank you
I
so
would
much.
love,
Thank you.
I would like to now introduce our next panelist. He has it's amazing to read his bio, and I'm just going to summarize it very quickly. Vivek is a combination of a corporate expert, a great leader, an award-winning person for his ethics and
digital
leadership,
technologies.
and also a person that is committed with social issues. So I have the honor to present him today. He is going to introduce a couple of topics, and then he's going to move into the digital panel for today. Vivek, it's an honor to have you here, and thank you for joining us today. Hope we get to meet you soon.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Pilar, and good morning, good evening to all of you, depending on which part of the world you're joining us from. It's an absolutely amazing honor to be here to talk to people both from India, Telangana, Hyderabad specifically, and Costa Rica. So welcome to this panel. And before we get into the panel discussion and I introduce you to the amazing set of speakers we have in our panel today, I just want to take a few moments to talk to you a little about TiE Hyderabad and something that we are doing here, which is an extremely amazing event that we want all of you to be a part of. So talking a little about TiE, for some of you who may not know, TiE, which is TIE, essentially stands for the IndUS Entrepreneurs. It's a global organization which was started with the Charter of Fostering Entrepreneurship. And if we can move to the next slide. If we can move to the next slide, today it is one of the largest network of entrepreneurs, which was created with a clear, like I said, Charter of Fostering Entrepreneurship, helping entrepreneurs across the world. Originally started, can we move to the next slide? Originally started in the year 1992 in the Silicon Valley. And the idea at that stage was a group of successful entrepreneurs and corporate executives who came together to say, how do we develop this corridor of business happening between India and the neighboring countries and US, particularly the Silicon Valley. And from 1992, if we move to the next slide, it's grown a long journey, and in this journey today, we are sitting as a global organization with our presence in 14 countries through 61 chapters. And we have a combination of two types of members, overall 15,000 members, but out of those, 3,000 are people who we call as our charter members. These are essentially successful serial entrepreneurs who have decided not only to help the entrepreneurs, but actually give back in terms of their time. So this is one of those few unique organizations where these charter members actually pay a fee to come back and support the future entrepreneurs in the true spirit of fostering entrepreneurship. So that's the presence we have today across the world. And if we can move to the next slide. And we've been kind of working in these chapters across the world. If we can move to the next slide, and this is how we are spread across the world. And it's not that today we are limited just to US and India, which is where we started. Over a period of time, we spread across the world. Coming specifically to TiE Hyderabad, which is what I represent as a member on the board, we've been running this chapter. Each of these are independent chapters out of the 61. We were established in 1999 here in Hyderabad. And one of the greatest things we are doing this year, if we move forward to the next slide, is to look at seeing how we bring the world's largest event, which is meant for entrepreneurs, which is happening virtually between the 8th and the 10th of December, which is the TIE Global Summit. The theme of this summit is Entrepreneurship 360, with a tagline of grassroots to global. And the reason why we say it's a unique opportunity for entrepreneurs to look at it is because you see the numbers at the bottom of the slide here. We are looking at 20,000 plus entrepreneurs who will attend this event virtually. And these attendees will come in and look at 500 plus one-on-one sessions, 200 plus investors, 100 plus exhibitors, 10 plus world leaders. So it's a galaxy of activities that are going to be happening over these 3 days. It's a 55-hour non-stop event that will happen for entrepreneurs to really have a paradise of learning that they will go through. And just to give you a few glimpses, if we move to the next slide, of what things that will happen very, very briefly, is that, like I said, there are going to be business plans that are going to be presented. We are expecting a lot of investment opportunities to open up, a lot of mentoring opportunities to open up to break all the barriers from an entrepreneurship perspective. So if any of you or any of your friends are looking at finding any of these solutions, I think this is going to be a unique opportunity to look at that. We can move forward. We can move forward to the next slide, please. During these 55 hours, we are really looking at a combination of activities that will happen, which is some speakers will be talking about it, a lot of one-on-one sessions will happen, a lot of investment pitches will happen, a lot of mentoring sessions will happen, exhibition booths will happen, a lot of strategy workshops will happen. The idea is for you to really benefit out of it in terms of interactions and taking something personally away rather than just purely listening to some speakers. So it's a combination of all of that. And with that, we'll move forward to the next slide. And we would really request that all of you should consider, especially between Costa Rica and India and all of our friends from whichever part of the world you're joining in, that do consider joining us at this event. The link at the bottom of the slide, TGS 2020. TGS is TIE Global Summit. So tgs2020.org is the place for you to go and log in to listen to some new ideas and really looking at investments and pitching. We'll move forward. So don't miss this opportunity. Join us in December, and with that, let's come to our discussion for today. So thank you very much for giving us an opportunity to talk about this fantastic global summit that's happening in Hyderabad. But coming closer to what we've gathered here today, which is to talk about digital technologies at the forefront of agility. And over the next 35-40 minutes, we'll essentially try and discuss about what's happening as the emerging technologies in these spaces, specific focus to Medtech and Pharma. I think we've heard about Costa Rica and the importance. So we will, from this panel, again, look at how we think there's a phenomenal role Costa Rica can play and how we can do partnerships in that. I think we've also heard that people aspects are an important aspect for business. So we look at that. And last but not the least is what are things we can look at from Telangana state to look at boosting economy. And to talk about these topics, we have an amazing set of speakers, and I'm really honored to introduce the three of them to you. And it's a great honor and pleasure to be meeting them because these are people who we in our ecosystem kind of interact with. So starting with, I will go alphabetically. Starting with Bharni, who is the CEO of InfoPeers, which is an IT services company, someone who has 30 plus years of experience across various industries in the IT, but specific focus on cybersecurity, business intelligence, and data sciences. He's someone who straddled between India and US, having lived in the US for 13 plus years, and has really been responsible for building a lot of the cybersecurity ecosystem. And in addition to being the CEO of InfoPeers, he also leads an industry body called HICIA, which is the Hyderabad Software Enterprise Association, which is really at the cutting edge of developing the IT space, and we'll hear a little more about it. And as part of that role, Bernie has also been focusing on the Security Council, which is a body they've created here along with the local police authorities. And he's been doing some amazing work in terms of women empowerment, including some women shuttle buses called She Buses, She Shuttles that he has started. So thank you very much, Bernie, for joining us today, and welcome to this panel today. And we will kind of pick on your brains to learn a lot about the amazing work you're doing. With that, I'd like to introduce the second panelist on our session today, Mr. Manohar Reddy. Mr. Manohar Reddy again has the distinction of actually straddling between Costa Rica and India. He is the founder CEO of a company called Fuji, which has operations in a few other countries besides Costa Rica and India. So we will spend some time talking to him about that. And he is a serial entrepreneur. He's been someone who's developed some fantastic organizations globally, including something called Gallup Solutions, which he exited a few years ago. And he's someone who believes in the true philosophy of spreading the wealth through charitable foundations, very socially active, someone who actually took a 2-year sabbatical to focus on developing his village to become a model village today, become an example for a lot of other people to look at. And in addition to doing all of this amazing work between social and Fuji, he is also the vice president of TAI Hyderabad, who will take over as the next president in the next calendar year. So he's someone again at the forefront of helping entrepreneurs to take their journeys to the next level. So thank you very much, Manohar, and welcome to this panel. And we'll soon get to hear your views on the amazing work again you're doing here. And last but absolutely not the least, we have Dr. Ratnakar. Dr. Ratnakar is the vice president and the practice head of global science, life sciences at Tech Mahindra. Again, someone who brings a phenomenal wealth of knowledge and experience, about 2 decades of experience across various pharmaceutical and companies in this space, with some marquee names like Dr. Reddy's, and he's someone who's mastered in his from an educational pedigree perspective, as with a PhD in business management, a celebrated author, someone who holds 2 patents, and also is on the governing council of BioNest, which is one of the bio incubators which has been created here. So again, someone who really brings a whole wealth of knowledge. So thank you very much, Dr. Ratnakar, for joining us today. And with that, let's kind of dive straight into discussing the entire topic today of digital technologies. So let me start with you, Dr. Ratnakar, given that you have probably the highest amount of knowledge between all 4 of us here on this panel in the space of medtech and pharmaceutical. So we are talking about this whole topic today about digital technologies, and we are also talking about pharma, medtech, at the forefront. So where do you see this intersection? What's your thought process about this entire intersection of technology and life sciences, and what do you see as the outlook for this intersection?
Sure, Vivek. Very good evening again to everyone. In fact, Vivek, if you actually look at the pharma and biopharma and medtech over the years, and the technology, which is information technology, all of these industries are actually operating in silos. But fortunately, this has actually changed in the more recent times. We are actually able to see a great synergy and intersection made between the technology and the pharmaceuticals. What actually is this intersection doing it? It has actually practically changed the way the healthcare is viewed in these days by the patients and the entire healthcare ecosystem. In fact, someone actually is talking about, it's called as techno vision. So that's where this intersection is actually leading into. So the digital health tools are actually shifting the entire paradigm of the companies in terms of developing either the new therapeutics or med devices from an early stage innovation through the entire life cycle of a product, with the potential that it's actually making more efficient, extending the business lines and enhancing the provider-patient relationship. I think that's something where everyone is looking at in terms of this intersection. Second important major trend, which is actually reshaping the entire pharmaceutical industry, is the drug discovery and development is actually making a sea change with the influx of digital technologies. When I mentioned about digital technologies, it's more important for us to take cognizance of technologies like artificial intelligence and machine learning. Most of us understand that the kind of money and time spent on the pharma new molecular entity development runs into billions of dollars. What these technologies are doing is it's significantly reducing the amount of time spent and also the monies actually spent on this development. So these technological interventions are actually making pharma companies to save billions of dollars, and also in terms of money and the time spent, in order to ensure that the patients are actually getting the right kind of benefit. There is also a significant contribution which is actually made into the medical industry. Almost every area in the healthcare is actually today touched by these technological interventions. In future, these technology interventions are going to change the entire landscape of the healthcare ecosystem. So again, if you actually look at this convergence and what it is going to have an impact, it is actually undoubtedly going to have a profound impact on the entire healthcare system. And it's not limiting just to one single entity. The entire stakeholder system in the healthcare, which is your providers, your payers, your healthcare system, and the patients at large, are going to significantly benefit by all these technological interventions.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Dr. Ratnakar. And I think that's a very interesting perspective, because the whole intersection is really going to make a huge difference. And I think COVID, if nothing else, has really made all of us understand the importance of healthcare and all of that, and how do we use technology. So it's very good and wonderful perspective to hear from you about, where do these intersect and how these are really going to be changing the life for most of us as individuals, and of course for the economy and the ecosystem and all of that. So thank you for those brilliant opening remarks from your side, Dr. Ratnakar. With that, I'd like to move to Manohar and kind of pick a little bit of thoughts from you about this whole partner country we have called Costa Rica. And like I said in the introduction, you are someone who kind of looks at both these countries with your operations in both these countries, besides a few others around the world. So a lot of people who are listening in to us today may have this question that, why should we look at Costa Rica as a destination? Why should we make an investment in that country? While we hear about the lovely beaches and all of that, but why should I invest in starting business operations there? So how do you see that, and what would your opinions be having someone who's worked, who runs operations in Telangana and Costa Rica?
Thank you, Vivek. Good evening, my fellow panelists, Barani and Ratnakar, and Buenos Dias. Good morning, and Pura Vida to my fellow Costa Ricans. Good evening to rest of the Thai colleagues and listeners. So, good question. Yeah. So we have been operating in Costa Rica for more than 4 years now. See, when you land in Costa Rica, you would actually see the posters which would say Pura Vida. Okay. Pura Vida means actually pure life. But it is expressed in different contexts in Costa Rica. You will actually understand the meaning of it only when you visit Costa Rica. What that means is, this phrase can be used as a good morning, welcome, goodbye, thank you, all is well, life is beautiful. I mean, in various contexts. But the fact is, whenever it is expressed in any situation, it brings a lot of joy and happiness. Okay, so it brings a smile on the people. So what I'm trying to say here is, it's a way of life for Costa Ricans. what it means is, Pura Vida means it's being very thankful for what they have and not worry about or dwell about the negative part of the life. Okay. So what that means is Costa Ricans have no stress. They're not fussy about things. They're not complicated. They're not in a rush, first of all. There's a lot of warmth when you meet people. So imagine with that kind of a culture, so what they can learn, okay, if you can teach them, okay, or anything that they would take up, either it is a technology or education. Fortunately, this country has taken up education is one of the key focus areas. It spends a lot of budget because they don't have any defense budget there, okay, and Peeler has already explained about it, but I don't want to go into the details. The beauty is the country itself is so beautiful. It's a paradise on the earth. I mean, all of us have seen Costa Rica in the first Jurassic Park movie. Okay, so when you actually land, I mean, you see the shot of helicopter, you know, coming down. Okay, so that's Costa Rica. Okay. Beautiful beaches, volcanoes, rainforests, and with that kind of beautiful weather, you know, people are very peaceful, warm. Customers will love you, first of all, if you go and invest and have an office there. Okay. Coming back, I mean, back in 2016, when we were working with HP Enterprise, they asked us to go and open 4 centers across the globe. One was Costa Rica, and then we actually went and opened one in Bulgaria and another in Romania. And of course, we already had operations in India. So I can tell you that after 4 years, I mean, we kind of transitioned or handed over operations in Eastern Europe to our clients, but we kept growing our center in Costa Rica. It's a democratic country, very stable country. There's a lot of, you know, the spirit of freedom. People they don't accept the status quo. The learnability is very high. Okay, and then Costa Rica has come up with this free trade zone where the taxes are almost, I would say, non-existent. In fact, we pay. What I remember is we pay a small fee for PROCOMER of about $3,000 per million of revenues. That's all. So in this country, whenever I'm filing the taxes, I don't have to apportion or keep some budget for paying the taxes because it's already considered. So that's the good thing about Costa Rica. They have a single window clearance system through PROCOMER. And then again, their immigration laws are very friendly. So these are all the reasons why you want to be there. Because you have a company, and if you can have a Costa Rica nearshore center, which is the same time zone as US, or I would say Central Time Zone. So you actually have an outpost there, right, serving your US clients, and it makes all the difference. It is making the difference for future. So that's the reason we are there.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Manohar. And for all of us who are listening into this call, it's not just because of the lovely beaches and the rainforest. There is actually a very fantastic business reason why you should consider Costa Rica, and especially if you're looking at US, like Manohar said, that it's like an outpost. You are there, but you're not there, and you're so close, you know, and so that's the reason why you should look at looking at Costa Rica. So thank you, Manohar, for enlightening us on that, you know. And after having seen the intersection from Dr. Ratnakar and, you know, looking at Costa Rica as a destination, Bharani, I'd like to come to you, and, you know, and being a leader of an association, like I mentioned in the brief introduction I gave about you, as an industry association, the HICIA body has really been at the cutting edge of helping Hyderabad become a leading city in the ITES space, you know, over the last few years, ever since we were declared as an independent state. And you guys have been working even before the state of Telangana was created in that sense. So I'd like to kind of ask you to reflect a little as an industry leader, industry association leader, at what roles can an industry association play, especially in sectors like pharma or medtech, to really foster the growth of that. From your learnings in the IT space, what would you like to share with all of us, and maybe Costa Rica could look at learning something from that.
All right, Vivek, thank you for the introduction and also the question that you posed to me. Before I just get into that, I think I should remind you that you forgot introducing Manohar on one aspect. That is, he's the brand ambassador of Puerto Rico in India. So, I mean, with so much you said about Puerto Rico, I really feel like taking the next flight out there and then living there for a couple of days. Anyway, so not on a lighter sense, but
I hope Pilar. I hope Pilar is listening to us and will make that happen for us. Yeah, Vardi, go on.
Absolutely. All right, so let me start explaining about our industry association before I could speak on the role that industry associations can play. Well, ICA, which stands for Hyderabad Software Enterprises Association, is a 28-year-old organization with more than 300 member companies covering 90% of the IT industry in Hyderabad. So as the president of this prestigious organization and being part of ICA in multiple roles last 13 years, I take pride in stating that our association body has been an integral part of the Hyderabad IT industry growth story for 3 decades. Started by few IT leaders and now has many CXOs from the MNCs, large India-based IT service companies, product companies, startups, engineering, research and development enterprises, forming part of the executive and management committee and are contributing immensely with their collective knowledge, experience, and wisdom to the overall growth of the industry. And this is all about a collaborative effort by the industry leaders. We've been working on several initiatives in the areas of innovation, infrastructure development, SME support and promotion, CSR and academia connect, engaging all the stakeholders such as the industry, government, academia, IT employees, volunteers, NGOs, technology partners, research institutions, etc., that would benefit and potentially impact the IT industry in every manner. So ICA is a great example of how an industry association can play a vital role in developing a respective industry, whether it's pharma, medtech, or any industry that you talk about. So let me explain more in general from my experience on how an IT industry or industry association can play a role in developing a specific industry. So as we may know, industry associations typically, they are not-for-profit organizations, is formed with companies pertaining to that specific industry domain as members and provide members with range of services. For example, it gives the members information about their industry, that is how changes to legislation will affect your business. It provides with useful resources, that is information and programs to help members meet industry standards, run typically training and education programs, organize seminars and all that stuff, facilitate networking events among the members and other stakeholders, manage mentoring program, connect the members with other businesses in your industry and also customer connect programs, arrange public relations and advertising activities that promote your industry. Very importantly, lobby on behalf of your industry to influence government policy. ICA has been doing phenomenally well in that area as well, thanks to our government and our minister and also our IT principal secretary, Mr. Jayesh Ranjan. So more importantly, in many industries, becoming a member of the peak body can give your business credibility as membership proves to customers that you have met strict criteria and have certain qualifications and experience. We have established this credibility in the IT industry in Telangana. An example is our annual IT industry awards. Our member companies take pride in receiving our awards on various categories. So is the case for pharma and medtech industries as well. Though industry bodies may operate generally in common areas across the industries, but there are many industry-specific problems that need specific solutions. For example, the intellectual property is a very important aspect in pharma and medtech as compared to healthcare. The number of patents registered may be more in pharma than in healthcare. So one of the key areas of focus for an industry association related to pharma is to deal with government and regulatory bodies in that country and other countries to ensure the interest in the member companies are protected. Coming to the pharma, medtech, healthcare domains in specific, the industry bodies can play an anchoring role to develop these industries and the supporting ecosystem, like how we do it in the IT industry ecosystem. So let's take healthcare domain in India for an analysis. Healthcare has become one of the India's largest sector, both in terms of revenue and employment. Healthcare comprises hospitals, medical devices, clinical trials, and medical equipment, etc. and etc. The Indian healthcare sector is growing at a brisk pace due to its strengthening coverage, services, and increasing expenditure by public as well as private players. The healthcare market has been exponentially growing, and it's going to be increasing threefold. That's what the analysts say, to 8.6 trillion rupees, which is almost $133 billion by 2022. Indian medical tourism market is also growing at 18% year on year. It is expected to grow and reach US $9 billion by 2020. So with so much growth potential, it is imperative that the industry shall have ways and means to bring all the players and stakeholders together to strategize the growth, share best practices towards collective growth of the industry, work with government to represent the needs, expectations, challenges in one voice, so that the industry in that part of the country stays very relevant, competitive in the global market. So industry association can certainly be the solution. The members can certainly leverage the industry association platforms in many ways, like how our members do, such as attending the seminars, workshops, and B2B expositions arranged by the associations, for networking and doing business. And these member exchanges, in our experience, can also build good spirit of camaraderie with the industry. So I think that with that said, as I conclude on that particular question, industry bodies are very, very important for any industry ecosystem to grow in any part of the world.
Thank you very much, Barney. And I think very interesting points in terms of how associations and the members of the association can really play a fantastic bridge, in terms of policy influencing and helping each other grow. So it's all of us together can grow in that. So thank you for that. Coming to you, Dr. Ratnakar, and Barney mentioned some fantastic numbers, in terms of the whole industry and the outlook for that industry. And as someone who spends a lot of his time within the industry, can you talk to us a little about what is these new age technologies that one can expect to be coming in the healthcare space? And I know I don't want to do crystal ball gazing and ask you over 10 years, but maybe in the next 3 years or next 5 years, what can one expect as the new emerging trends in this space, which will help achieve those outstanding numbers Barney alluded to?
Sure, Vivek. I think Barney did actually give a kind of a pretext to what digital technologies are going to play a major role. In fact, the biggest innovation for the 21st century is adoption of digital technologies by the healthcare ecosystem. But that's the biggest innovation. If you look at the whole space of genomics, genetic mapping, analytics, quantum computing, all these are actually coming together, and you see an amazing opportunity to drive insights into human condition. Okay, and they're able to actually cure and handle diseases, which is more specific than ever before. Okay, I think the fact that you can customize medicines upon the DNA profile of a patient is going to have a remarkable impact on the human condition. This is really fascinating, exciting by using all these new age technologies. And you can just resonate to what Barney told. That's the kind of impact they're going to actually make. I'll give a couple of examples. In fact, we all talk about 3D printing in various industries. Healthcare is again an industry which has actually embraced 3D printing into their ecosystem. As recent as last year, a pharmaceutical company in United States have actually developed a pill for epilepsy using the 3D printed technology. Okay, it's amazing to actually look at some of these technologies, how they are reshaping that. Similarly, let's talk and spend some time about usage of IoT and sensors. Gone are the days where the manufacturing facilities, the shop floor is actually monitored in the shop floor. Shop floor is actually monitored way away using the technologies like digital twin. The entire streamlining process of the manufacturing is actually done using the concepts of digital twin, including the research and development and in the manufacturing. Phenomenal change. The entire process streamlining is actually been very well monitored using these kind of technological interventions. You can look at a store of the future, where leveraging technologies like gesture computing, motion tracking, depth sensing, 3D visualizations is actually reshaping the entire concept of shopping merchandising into a kind of a virtual kind of shopping, which is actually called your shopping of the future. In fact, the same you can actually try to correlate with the manufacturing of the future, or in our terminology, we say the factory of the future. Using all these technologies of IoTs and sensors, you're actually making the entire manufacturing process pretty well streamlined and making people take decisions without actually making any kind of interventions, sitting in the shop floor. Let me also bring in yet another element, because today we are all sitting in the age of COVID pandemic situation. Blockchain, I think, which has been very well and very accomplished technology, which is used in the financial and other sectors, but again, healthcare has actually embraced, and it is actually providing an exceedingly good kind of platforms for the healthcare, not by just only for the traceability, but you're actually having a kind of end-to-end visibility of the product, right from the manufacturing site up to the patient who is taking it. So it actually addresses multiple elements. And since we're talking about the vaccines for quite some time, this requires definite stipulated temperature conditions. And with these kind of technologies, you are actually giving the right kind of assurance to the patients that they are indeed in the safe hands, and using these technologies, you are actually bringing them the right kind of healthcare ecosystem. Let me also talk about robotic automation. There were situations where thousands of people were actually doing some of those routine activities. I'll give you an example of managing adverse events, okay, in the pharmaceutical space. But again, all those things are actually replaced by technologies like robotic automation, where one or a couple of robots would actually take the entire process of robotic automation of the adverse events, moving away the whole lot of human intellect doing hours of work on just managing adverse events. So I think these are the technologies which you can definitely see it is making clear inroads into the healthcare ecosystem. Robotics in terms of even the healthcare and in terms of surgeries. You'll actually see all these technologies completely reshaping the entire healthcare ecosystem, making it more efficient, making it more streamlined, and more importantly, the entire healthcare ecosystem is just only centered around patient care. And that's where this technology interventions is actually addressing how well you can actually get the right kind of patient care.
Fantastic. And so much of cutting edge work that's happening. And I can't imagine what the world in 2 to 3 years from now will look like for each of us who's going to be experiencing that. So thank you for giving us an insight into that. And lest we get carried away by this technology, and I want to come to you, Manohar, and say, while all of this technology is fantastic and this cutting edge work, blockchain, robotics, all of this is important and is really critical. But I think we need to continue to be aware of the fact that at the center of all this is the human being. So I want to kind of ask you to talk to us a little about the people aspects of the business, and when we specifically look at, again, the two geographies we are focusing on in today's conversation about the people aspect. So can you talk to us a little about the people aspect? We've heard about the technology, but I think people are equally important, if not more so. Let's hear from you what you think about that.
Sure. People aspect of business in Costa Rica. Basically, Costa Rica has a very good talent. A lot of people have the perception that Costa Rica has talent for BPO and not necessarily for technology. Okay? It is not the case. The country as such is a young country. and it's a sparsely populated nation. It only has about 6 million population. So what that means is they do have actually very good technical talent, but that are already grabbed by most of these top brands, which are actually located there. As I already mentioned, the people are hardworking. They're very strong analytical mind, and they're very customer centric. And actually, they're a lot more, I would say, have a depth in the domain understanding than Indian talent. Okay, so Indian people are a lot more technical oriented. I would say that Costa Ricans have a lot more functional knowledge. Okay, so I would think that they will be great for anything that to do with the customer experience, customer support, and definitely if we can bring in some technology support from India, and especially with the pandemic, everything is happening remotely. I do believe that the talent in the, I would say the young talent in the colleges, they will be ready with more technology capabilities. And I'm sure if we really have to make this work, especially for the investors who are based in India, I think Costa Rica team could be the front end, and India could become the back end in terms of the technology or services. Coming back, I want to share an experience with a client. Okay, so we have a large travel client who had teams across the globe. In fact, I was sharing this with you earlier. So they had large teams in India, Europe, and the United States, and we had a small team that were serving this travel clients, premium clients, in fact. Okay, so they told me that each dollar that they would spend on our customer support team that is based in Costa Rica brings out better ROI than any other customer support person that they would engage globally. And the difference has been that the Costa Rican team had empathy, and they were so customer focused that they ensured that they solved the problems of the customers than actually closing the tickets. So that itself is a serious differentiator why we should be working with the Costa Rican talent. And if you have that customer focus, I think the rest all can be taught and trained. So that's my take. Okay, so.
Thank you very much. And that's an interesting perspective, because I think in the business, like you rightly said, besides technology, we also need the human element. And it's wonderful to see how there are such wonderful opportunities that both India and Costa Rica can kind of find, like you mentioned, in the combination of technology from here and the customer service or people engagement from there. So thank you for bringing those aspects out, Manohar. With that, Bhardi, in any business, besides technology and people, I think one other thing that is important is the entire relationship with the government. And again, at ICR, the work you people have been doing across the last 28 years, as you mentioned, has been amazing, because a lot of work that you do is, in collaboration with the government. It's like a complete hand-in-hand approach that you people have been running. And I think I'd like to ask you to kind of share some thoughts around that, how can such relationships be created, especially in this whole new world of digital technologies that we are talking about? How do we look at these associations to benefit developing people, skills, and talent development and all of that? So can you talk to us a little about what's been the journey and how you people have gone about doing this?
Sure, Vivek. First of all, let's just recognize and appreciate the very fact that there are common goals shared by the government and the respective industry segment, particularly with regards to the industry growth. Well, if you look at that, an industry association forms a bridge between the industry and the government, without a doubt, putting forward the problems and issues of the industry to the concerned ministries. So the collective voice that the associations raise on behalf of the industry regarding policies and regulations is very crucial, as many organizations do not have the resource or expertise in this area. In our example, right, I just want to kind of bring about our example because I can relate to the actions that we have put on ground. So HICA has been associated with the state government here since its origin. The industry association has witnessed and formed part of the overall growth of the industry since the nascent stages of the industry. Well, I can say that with a lot of conviction and pride that one of the primary reasons for the growth of IT industry in Hyderabad is a strong collaboration between industry and the government. Thanks to the government in the past and more so ever now, who had the vision to grow the overall industry ecosystem by recognizing the opportunities in this area well in advance. The industry association has played a key role in supporting the government with policy advocacy and also helped attracting many new investments from across the globe. To give an example on our strong relationship with the government, particularly the Telangana government, I'm very happy to share that our state government is co-hosting our flagship annual event called HICA Innovation Summit and Industry Awards, being held on November 5th. Our Honorable IT Minister, Mr. K.T. Ramarao, is the chief guest, and Mr. Jayesh Ranjan, IAS, Principal Secretary, IT/E&C in the government, is the guest of honor. So such is the relationship and the involvement in our industry activities. They are very, very accessible anytime, right, for the industry and participate in many events, irrespective of the size of the organization. This collaboration and commitment has created an extraordinary trust in the government for the industry, overall industry. So let me share my perspective on the talent landscape that you kind of touched about in our state and how government and HICA are gearing towards upskilling and reskilling of our student community and also our current workforce. Why I say the current workforce, I can just give you some statistics which is very alarming against the very fast changing talent landscape. So we all know that from an overall national perspective, India employs about close to 4.3 million people. Of that, approximately about 884,000. So it's about close to 20% only are digitally skilled. We talk about all these digital technologies like AI, big data, IoT, cybersecurity, blockchain, all that stuff, right? But end of the day, the analysis say that only 20% are digitally skilled. So in fact, various projections say India will need 4 times its existing digital workforce over the next 3 years to cater to the industry demands, because any industry you take, right, in our market space, everybody is just kind of going through some level of digital technology adoption. So with that picking up very greater speeds, I think the demand also for the resources going up. So the lack of digital capabilities and cyber security also are the 2 key risks to the growth of the industry today. And I'm glad to say that our IT Minister, Honorable IT Minister, had a vision to be able to create cyber warriors in our organization, in our state. So we are kind of working towards, bringing that reality into reality very soon. So just to again give you some more perspective, about 65% of the jobs in the IT sector will witness transition in job roles over the next 5 years due to automation and digitization. But the industry is not equipped to deal with that transition that quickly. With that said, just give another example, artificial intelligence that we talk about more often than not. The kind of effect it's going to have, right, is just not only in the IT industry, completely across all different industries. 5 years from now, about 5.4 crore Indians will hold jobs unheard of today. So that's the kind of, speed at which the transition is happening right now. And our state government, all credit to our state government, they recognize this very early on and has created many programs and initiatives to mitigate the talent gap that might potentially be created as a supply and demand situation between academia and the industry keeps widening with respect to employability of students. So government has established an organization called TASK, Telangana Academy for Skill and Knowledge, a not-for-profit organization for bringing synergy among institutions of government, industry and academia with an objective of offering quality human resources and services to the industry, which is an amazing initiative, and not any other state in the entire country has done it. So big hats off to our government. So this organization that I was talking about, TASK, works with industry bodies like ICEA to improve the skills of students and make them industry ready, which is very, very important at this point in time. But this initiative helps organizations to cut short the training programs and also induct the training resources into live projects in a short period of time. So in addition, ICEA partnered with universities and JNTU on working on various structured training and skilling programs. We host hackathons offering internships to students during the graduation. And innovation is one of the key focus areas of ICEA, and we intend to improve and strengthen the innovation ecosystem in all possible ways, leveraging the collective knowledge, wisdom, and expertise of the industry. I'm sure Costa Rica can take our example and create this ecosystem on readying the future workforce in close collaboration with the existing industry associations and universities.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Barney. And I think we've had some very interesting conversation with all three of you, and we can continue to have this conversation for hours together because the wealth of knowledge all three of you bring is phenomenal, and I think all of us can keep learning from all of that. But it was very interesting to kind of hear about this, terms like technovision that Dr. Ratnakar talked about, customized treatment, which is the future. And I think some good things we learned about Costa Rica, which is, Pura Vida. I hope I've got that pronunciation right, Pilar. The purity of life, and how they've made it like a way of life there, and they don't accept the status quo and want to keep changing that and balance between tech and people. So it's a fantastic thing, and we learned from Bernie how it's a very important task to get the different parameters together. How do we get the ecosystem to really work together, whether it's the government or the industry body or the industry members. So it's been a fantastic session, and I'm sure just the way I have learned a lot from all of you, I think a lot of us listening into you would have learned a lot. So thank you very much to all three of you. Always a wonderful experience talking to you. So thank you. And with that, Pilar, I'll hand it over back to you to take the evening forward.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Barney. Thank you, Manohar. Thank you, Dr. Ratnakar.
Wonderful. Yes, again, thank you to all of you. And Manohar, again, it's a pleasure. And I hope that I get to meet the rest of you soon in person again. It is with great honor to introduce, before we introduce Pedro, because we already have the presence of the minister, and I would like him to please give us some time then to receive the kind words from him. I want to present His Excellency Mr. Ranjan. He is the IAS Principal Secretary, IT and Industry of the Government of Telangana. So with that, Minister, I give you the floor, and please, it's an honor to have you here with us today. Minister Ranjan?
Yes, very good afternoon to all the participants from Costa Rica. Good evening to friends from India. I'm delighted that all the sessions have gone off so brilliantly, so successfully, and I feel so satisfied at the end of the day. It's literally the end of the day here in India, and to find it traversing in such a beautiful way is a matter of extreme satisfaction. So my congratulations to you, Pilar, your colleagues from CINDE, other colleagues from Costa Rican industry associations who brought their members to participate in all the panels. My compliments to the Indian representatives from different industry associations, moderators of the session, and most importantly, I should not forget the two excellencies, the Indian ambassador to Costa Rica, the Costa Rican ambassador to India, who patronized this conference, who gave very optimistic and very positive remarks in the beginning. So I would like to make three comments. I don't want to make a very prolonged speech, but I want to make three comments. The first is that it is a remarkable coincidence, while geographically, culturally, India and Costa Rica have very little to kind of work together, but there seems to be such a great alignment between your investment priorities, your goals, your ambitions, the way you have handled the pandemic. When you were making your opening remarks, Pilar, you spoke about how you allowed the industry to work regularly, how you allowed the service industry to work from home. You spoke about how people are now rebounding back. So, I mean, in some ways, it appeared as if I'm saying these things to some other audience. You literally stole the words from my mouth, because this is precisely the journey of our state of Telangana as well. So, despite being, as I said, so culturally and geographically dissimilar, the fact that we are so well aligned with our priorities and our goals, etc., is remarkable. And in the three panels that we presented today on life sciences, on medical technologies, and of course on information technology, etc., again, tremendous amount of convergence, tremendous amount of synergy. So something which looks very, very optimistic to me. Now, the suggestion which I want to make is, and this is the real hallmark of whether our conference will be called a success or it will be just one of the run-of-mill conferences, will be how much we are able to follow up on what all has been discussed. So the whole brilliance lies in the execution or following up on all these ideas that has been shared. So I want to make three suggestions for follow-up, and I do not know what is the order after I finish my speech, but I would like someone from your side, perhaps you yourself, Pilar, to respond to what I'm suggesting. Does it make sense? Do you want to do it in a different way? So my suggestions are like this. So first of all, let us constitute a joint working group, which will have representatives from both Telangana as well as from Costa Rica. And I would, in particular, like, and let there be a chair and a co-chair, or let there be two co-chairs, so that everyone is on an equal footing. So I would request someone to be nominated from CINDE. If you yourself can spend time, that would be wonderful. At least you should be there in some of the initial meetings to drive the agenda, since you are here in the conference right from morning. Similarly, I will nominate someone from IndUS Telangana. But as I said, I would like to be present in the initial discussion, so that we kind of put together the framework concretely, and thereafter people can take over. I am again very happy to share with you that in our IndUS Telangana wing, we have recruited a diplomat, a member of the Indian Foreign Service. So when you heard the Indian ambassador to Costa Rica speak, he belongs to a part of the civil services in India, which is called the Indian Foreign Service. So I'm recruiting a person from the same pedigree, who has global understanding, who knows the world of global trade and commerce, etc., to become a part of IndUS Telangana from the 1st of next month. So just in 3 days from today, we'll be having a very strong diplomatic background person who will work for us. So I'll, of course, be involving him quite a lot in supporting this. But as I said, in the initial days, I would like to steer this. So one is to form the joint working group. And of course, besides IndUS Telangana and CINDE, I would also request industry bodies to nominate. So in the panels you saw, we had representatives from the software industry, which is called ICA. We had representatives from the Medtech industry, which is called IMEA. Then we had representatives from the pharmaceutical industry, which is called Pharmaceuticals. So I would like these three industry bodies to be represented, and similarly you identify counterparts from your side who would be represented by. But my request is that within the next 1 week, let us constitute this joint working group. In Telangana, I do not require any further approval to constitute the joint working group. I can close this decision. So from my side, this will be very quick. And if you have any internal approval process to constitute this group, or to recommend people to be in that group, then please hasten it up. Do that quickly, so that we are able to announce the joint working group very, very quickly. The second suggestion is that once the joint working group is constituted, let us create or let us identify business and trade opportunities. So what I would request you to do is that let us look at the IT sector. You heard the ICA president speak about all the great work which Hyderabad-based companies are doing for the government, for enterprises. So can you, under the umbrella of this joint working group, create a basket of projects, let us say 50 projects or 25 projects, which are important for you. So for example, if you want some digitalization drive to be done in your licensing department or in some education department or whatever is the government agency which you think is most open to pushing a strong digitalization agenda, if you can identify a bunch of projects, and similarly we will identify similar projects for your company, and also send a profile of let us say top 20 companies who would be interested to looking at India and in particular Telangana. I will send you a list of maybe 50 companies who are looking at, will be keen to explore these opportunities in Costa Rica. So and then we'll do this matching and batching, identify which project will suit which company and create a mechanism. So for example, if there's a law in Costa Rica under which you cannot bilaterally hand over a project to a foreign company, can we identify a local partner who will kind of take this procurement process forward? And maybe in the joint working group we can also discuss the mutual laws of both the countries. So in India and in Telangana, what are the processes which we typically follow? In Costa Rica, what are the laws and processes that you typically follow, and how should we comply with that? I do not want any one of us to violate any law or break any law or regulation to do anything. So that is the second suggestion, that we create a basket of projects for all these three sectors, for technologies, for pharmaceutical, for med devices. I will also share with you information about what are the industrial parks we have. So suppose a Costa Rican company wants to invest in setting up a pharma unit. What kind of support will the government give? What kind of incentives we will provide? And if that company wants to enter into a joint venture partnership with a local company who becomes a co-investor. So I will prepare a list of, let us say, 50 such companies from Hyderabad, from Telangana, who would like to co-invest, and so on. And similarly, you do something similar. So the whole idea is that we take the discussion forward in concrete ways, which are visible, which can be kind of assessed, and we can tomorrow tell very proudly that we expanded business opportunities for Costa Rican companies in India, for Hyderabad-based companies, Telangana-based companies in Costa Rica. And the third thing which I wanted to tell is that let us explore, apart from trade and investment, let us also explore softer aspects also. So for instance, my colleague was speaking about skill development. I also admired your comment when you mentioned in the beginning that you also encourage innovation quite a lot. You are a hotbed of innovation, and so is Hyderabad in our country. So lots of speakers whom you interacted with or whom you saw in the panel discussions, many of them are champions of innovation in our state and our city. And there is great possibility of encouraging exchange of startups, innovation programs, and so on and so forth. So, and similarly, I was listening to Mr. Manohar Reddy, who spoke about the possibilities of tourism and stuff like that. So I will be very happy to introduce the top 10 tour operators of Hyderabad, and you introduce top 10 tour operators of Costa Rica, and can they work out packages? So let us say if a Costa Rican family wants to come to India on vacation, what kind of a package is available so that that family enjoys a hassle-free experience in India? And similarly, how does you encourage tourists from India to, of course, these are not the times to talk about tourism from a very immediate perspective, but obviously I'm sure that this relationship that we are building upon, these will be for many, many years. We are not thinking only about 6 months or 1 year or 2 years. I hope that this interaction that we have begun today will continue for decades, so to say. So let us look at some of the softer opportunities of skilling, innovation, tourism, culture. You can send cultural troops to Hyderabad and we'll organize their performances. We would be happy to send artists and painters and dancers and so on and so forth to your country. And since we have the blessings of both the ambassadors, we will bring them in the loop, whatever joint working group and whatever deliberations that we have in that, we will ensure that they are aware about what we do, so that whatever official support that we require for these kind of things, two ambassadors push their might, push their weight behind all these things. So the sum and substance of what I am telling is that we we have had good discussions, good exchange, and eventually everyone has agreed that there is tremendous amount of complementarity and synergy between the two geographies, the state of Telangana and the country of Costa Rica. And now, as I said, the brilliance lies in finding ways to work together to take that to the next level. And please let me know if you have any different views, any other ideas which you also think should be thought about. So I would like to stop here, and before concluding, I would once again like to convey my gratitude and my congratulations to the organizers of this conference and everyone who participated and gave brilliant ideas and suggestions. Thank you very much.
Mr. Minister, thank you so much for all your enthusiasm. First of all, I appreciate that. I hope you see on our side our enthusiasm. I wanted to also represent my interest from really being part of this initial, and actually not initial. I have the pleasure to be in the state of Telangana myself. I visited a number of companies that are there. I've always been very impressed. And it is certainly a world of opportunities that we can start talking from now on. I appreciate your disposition. And of course, we're going to get back and see how CINDE, I have here Pedro Eirute from PROCOMER as well. And of course, in between CINDE, PROCOMER, the associations, and all of you here. We will be very happy to follow up and really move forward into more collaboration. Mr. Minister, thank you for your time. Thank you. It's very late, so thank you for joining us today, and have a pleasant evening. And of course, before we finish, I have Pedro Eirute here. He is the CEO of PROCOMER. PROCOMER and CINDE, and Pedro will talk a little bit more, are sort of sister companies. We work together. He is also a good friend and an amazing representative of Costa Rica from a export promotion. His export promotion agency is also the #1 export promotion agency in the world for a number of years. So I would like to, Pedro, also give some words of encouragement and messages that you would have about this collaboration and this relationship with India. Pedro?
Thank you, Pilar. I am extremely happy to hear the minister enthusiasm and the plans to move forward with this collaboration and this teamwork between Costa Rica and India. Of course, first, congratulations for having this event. I realize how late it is in India tonight, and of course, for my friends in Costa Rica, it's better. Glad to have the ambassadors in this meeting as well. And of course, I just want to start my words saying that perhaps I may be considering on hiring Manohar as the next ambassador of Costa Rica, because the way he talked about Costa Rica a few minutes ago, I was able to listen the whole panel was impressive, and I don't think I can do better. How he explained the Costa Rica Pura Vida lifestyle. And yes, as Pilar was saying earlier today, during the recent decades, our country has enjoyed solid economic development thanks to mostly our investment in the production of high-value products and services. Mainly, the purpose of this event, right? Medtech, Pharma, and IT digital. And going through that, the strategy is what has helped us develop our vision around the three P's that Pilar was also mentioning, right? People, profit, and planet. And having this vision has also helped us during this pandemic maintain our businesses running, meaning business continuity with resilience and adaptation to the circumstances. But I want to take a step back in that vision of triple P's, people, profit, and planet, and explain you how we got here. Basically, Costa Rica's model has 5 pillars. The first one is peace. We are a very peaceful country. We decided to abolish our army 70 years ago. We are the oldest democracy in Latin America, and people live peace and interactions with everyone. We are a very low conflict society. Number 2, second pillar, it's education. Just like India, Costa Rica has developed a strong public, free and mandatory education system. We have 99.5% of alphabetism, and everyone in Costa Rica has access to good quality free education, and with that, technical education, bilingualism, and so on. We spend 8% of our GDP in education. So that creates the foundations for companies to land here in Costa Rica and have access to talent. Number 3 of our pillars is universal healthcare. We also have an almost free healthcare system in Costa Rica that is available to everyone living in Costa Rica despite nationality, and is one of the best in the world. So as a result, our life expectancy it's close to 80 years old, and people live with reasonable healthcare access and support. Number 4, very important, because that's the way we have been positioned ourselves to the world, not just in terms of tourism, but in terms of development model, it's sustainability. Costa Rica, it's a green country. Almost 100% of our electricity comes from renewable sources, meaning rivers, wind, geo, thermal energy, and that allows that all our factories, all our air conditionings, all our computers run on green renewable electricity, and that has helped us become visible and relevant to many US companies and European companies that want to be good citizens and be sustainable. Half of our territory is protected. We have more than 200 volcanoes that are also protected, and overall we take environmental protection and sustainability very serious. Not recently, but for the last probably 5 decades, Costa Rica has become a real giant in terms of sustainability. And the 5th and last element of our development model is our openness to trade and investment. Costa Rica has free trade agreements with more than 50 countries, including all North American countries like US, Canada, Mexico, of course, European Union, as well as China. Therefore, we are very well connected to all these markets, both for products and services, with investment protection agreements, with free trade agreements that makes attractive to many companies do business from Costa Rica, because they will enjoy not just the free trade zone scheme that Manohar was talking with 100% corporate tax exemption, but also with exemptions or benefits in terms of exporting goods and services to other countries. And that is, of course, very well supported by a strong judicial system where all companies can enjoy security in terms of doing business. Bottom line, those are the 5 elements of our model: peace, education, universal healthcare, sustainability, and openness to trade. and that has been what has been become attractive to many multinational companies to do business here in Costa Rica and use Costa Rica as their Latin American headquarters. We are 2 hours away flight from the United States, same time zone, reasonable level of bilingualism, of technical knowledge, etc. We are, to be honest with you, a bit more expensive than India, for example, in software development. Our average rate is like $35 per hour, and that makes us less competitive, I would say, in terms of costs. But here's where I see a big opportunity for Indian and Costa Rican companies to do these joint ventures, right? Because you have massive talent in software development, for example, and by using Costa Rica's positioning and location together with the Indian economies of scales and talent, both Costa Rican and Indian companies can benefit in accessing US market, for example, which is our nearest market. Definitely, I see opportunities for these joint ventures, for collaboration, as the minister was explaining. And of course, from a trade promotion organization, PROCOMER will be happy to help building these links, building these bridges, and of course, accessing the tax exemptions and free trade scheme model that we have. I don't want to take more of your time because I know it's very, very late in India, but thank you. My respect to India, my greetings to India, and I hope this can become an opportunity for business together.
Thank you, Pedro. Thank you for your kind words, and of course.
Aside from talking, having a good words to Manohar, I also want to thank Munish, which I hope he's connected, because he has also been instrumental to bringing this link between Costa Rica and India.
Yes, thank you, Pedro, for remembering that. Absolutely. I believe this has been a wonderful opportunity. I need to thank so many people. Fanny, you're there in my computer. You're in the middle of my computer right now. This is where your picture is. I can't thank you enough. I have a colleague, Diana, who has also been there next to us. I think it has been a wonderful opportunity to share, to have the time to get together. 3 absolutely important sectors: Medtech, life sciences, IT. This is where the world is going. This is the greatest and fast forwarding sectors. There's a lot to work with. You open to have you in Costa Rica whenever all of you can travel. Thank you, all of you. I hope you have a pleasant evening. I hope you dream about Costa Rica since you're going to bed. See you soon. And of course, Mr. Minister, we're here to continue conversations. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pilar.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jay, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.